Chapter 4170. This war that the three great demon emperors had been planning for God knows how many years now had a huge variable, and this variable was naturally Xiaohua. However, Xiaohua did not directly participate in the war at this time. Instead, he hid in a corner of the realm protecting Great Array, trying his best to replenish his essence while narrowing his eyes to observe the situation of the entire war. Xiaohua was not a talented commander, so it was not realistic for him to lead the war. However, he was a talented general who could find flaws in the war and find out the intentions of the demon race. The two demon emperors are currently leading the demon monarchs and other demons to fight against the human army. Although it looks like they are in a stalemate, in reality, the demon emperors have the advantage. They have a lot of demons, and using the demon formation to teleport demons is also extremely fast. The two demon emperors can pin down this Xiao's doppelganger, while the other demon monarchs can kill the human cultivators. On the contrary, the human race has to protect the ruins, so they don't dare to relax at any place in the entire realm protecting Great Array, even if they know that this place is the main point of the demon race's attack. However, the demon race has used the diversionary tactic too many times, so no one dares to give up on the defense of other places. In other words, the demon race actually has a huge advantage. As long as the two demon emperors are willing, they can let their demon monarchs defeat the humans while the demon formation's demon spirit is pinning down the celestials. Xiaohua secretly pondered, of course, this kind of victory cannot affect the overall situation. The most important thing is that the demon formation's demon spirit has to defeat the celestials. However, the strange thing is that the strength that the demon formation's demon spirit displayed earlier is not inferior to the celestials. Moreover, the celestials are too violent. Bones Honing Xiaohua is currently trying his best to control them. If the demon formation's demon spirit has the intention, although it can't easily defeat the celestials, it can easily suppress them. Could it be that the demon formation's demon spirit has seen through the peculiarity and is waiting for the celestials to lose control? And at that time, if this Xiao is afraid that the celestials will kill both the human race and the demon race, I can only put the celestials into the space. Even at that time, whether this Xiao can control the celestials or not is still another matter. Damn it, how can this demon race be so cunning? They are 100 times more cunning than the dragon race on Dragon Island. It's just... Xiaohua was puzzled again. How does the demon formation's demon spirit know that Bones Honing Xiaohua is unable to control the celestials? Can he see it from the surface? Yes, I understand. Xiaohua's mind spun rapidly. Looking at the enormous devil formation devil spirit, he suddenly understood something and exclaimed in a low voice. Bone-tempering Xiaohua used this Xiao's doppelganger to fall into the celestial's white bones, unable to control the celestial. If that was the case, even if the demon spirit of the demon array fell into the demon emperor's body, it wouldn't last for long. Demon Emperor Qiong's demon body was similar to his Yuan Shen. He had always occupied the body of others, but if he occupied the bones of the celestial being, he might be stronger than Xiaohua. But now, the situation was reversed. It was the demonic array's demonic spirit that had taken over Demon Emperor Qiong's demonic body. What kind of existence was the demonic array's demonic spirit? That was an existence that had trapped the Great Barrier Formation of the ruins for hundreds of years, and could control all the devils that entered and exited the Great Barrier Formation. How could the Demon Emperor's body contain this demon spirit? Perhaps, the Devil Array's devil spirit was now in the same predicament as the Bone Honing Xiaohua. Whoever can last until the end will be the winner. After saying that, Xiaohua hurriedly transmitted this situation to the Bone Honing Xiaohua, encouraging him to persevere. Hearing this, the Bone Honing Xiaohua's spirit was greatly shaken. The three heads of the celestial each spouted out a different colored light. At the same time, the 6 arms also danced, either tearing the void, holding thunderbolts, or smashing out thunderballs, launching another round of crazy attacks. At the same time, the red light in the celestial's eyes became even more dazzling. Woo! The body of the demonic array's devil spirit involuntarily swelled up. The demonic arms drew circles in the air, and waves of demonic energy whistled in the air like a whirlpool. There were traces of demonic patterns in the whirlpool, and pitch-black lightning flashed in the demonic patterns. Boom, boom, boom. An earth-shattering sound rang out again. The light of the celestial not only destroyed the whirlpool, but also fell on the body of the demonic array's devil spirit. Even the thunderballs and thunderbolts also destroyed the demonic energy of the demonic array's devil spirit. Under the powerful attack of the celestial, the body of the demonic array's devil spirit fell into the flames of the Great Barrier Formation. Good. Xiao Hua smiled to the point that even his eyes were narrowed, and he almost clapped his hands. With the celestial's white bones as his trump card, he could move unhindered in the ruins, move unhindered in the moon god realm. What was there to be afraid of? However, at this moment, the location of the demonic pillars that were originally obliterated by the celestial suddenly rumbled. Following that, tens of thousands of white bones burning with black flames swarmed out like bamboo rafts in a river. Behind every white bone was a wisp of pitch-black demonic energy. These white bones were covered with demonic patterns, and they were extremely fast. The moment they appeared, they immediately fell into the flames of the Great Barrier Formation, not giving the celestial any time to react. When the celestial saw this, he couldn't help but become furious. The multicolored light in his mouth once again spouted towards the white bones. Puff, puff. Amidst the continuous sounds, there was the sound of water splashing. Tens of thousands of white bones rushed to the side of the fat body of the demonic array's devil spirit, and the multicolored light of the celestial also fell into the flames. Wherever the multicolored light was, the white bones broke inch by inch, and the scarlet flames were extinguished even more. Not good. Xiao Hua was an array master. Seeing that the traces of the white bones were somewhat strange, it seemed to be a kind of array, he was immediately shocked and shouted, "Quick, bone-tempering fellow Taoist!" Just as Xiao Hua shouted here, clang! There was a burst of golden sound, but at the Great Barrier Formation, a large grayish-white color emerged. Like the psoriasis on the body of the secular world, it looked extremely disgusting. Following that, the previously sickly demonic array's devil spirit suddenly became lively. That chubby body seemed to break out of thin air. The arms, legs, and other places connected spurted out thick rings of demonic energy. These rings of demonic energy rotated rapidly, bringing the various demonic bodies of the demonic array's devil spirit, and those places were where many of the previous demonic bones fell. Damn it! Bone-tempering Xiao Hua tried his best to resist the waves of impulses coming from the celestial white bones, but Xiao Hua's vigilance also came to his mind. He cursed angrily, urging the celestial white bones to pounce on the demonic array's devil spirit, and the multicolored light in his mouth spurted out like a flood. Don't. Xiao Hua seemed to understand the demonic array's devil spirit's plan, and hurriedly ordered bone-tempering Xiao Hua. Unfortunately, he was still too late. Just as the multicolored light spurted out, the body of the demonic array's devil spirit emitted a terrifying fluctuation. Waves of pitch-black thunderbolts mixed with demonic flames were born from the large grayish-white area of the Great Barrier Formation. Following that, the body of the demonic array's devil spirit soared into the sky, and behind him, a large expanse of flames was lifted up. At this moment, the celestial's attack came again, but this attack was strangely dodged by the demonic array's devil spirit. That flood of multicolored light hit the flames that were lifted up, and the restrictions and other things that the demonic array's devil spirit couldn't remove were all destroyed by the multicolored light of the celestial. Following that, a large amount of heaven and earth origin chi gushed out from the Great Barrier Formation, and the Great Barrier Formation finally had a huge crack. Although there were some flaws in the previous Great Realm Protection Formation, and the Devil Spirit of the Devil Formation could use these flaws to send the Devil race into the ruins, the entire Great Realm Protection Formation was complete. Furthermore, the Great Realm Protection Formation could also repair some of its flaws. Now it was different. In the Crimson-Red battle, the area of several hundred li was torn apart. Although it wasn't much in the huge fire array, the Great Barrier Formation was no longer complete. Especially under the control of the demonic array's devil spirit, the pitch-black demonic flames and thunderbolts crazily controlled this flaw and spread to other places. Boom! Before Xiaohua could say anything, a demonic pillar that pierced through the entire space fell down from the demonic array above everyone's head, completely covering the Great Barrier Formation's flaw. The entire Great Barrier Formation violently shook under this demonic pillar, and it was like a dagger stabbing into an ordinary person's body. The Celestial was also furious. He raised his head and let out a long roar, and multicolored light spurted out from his three heads again. Boom! The multicolored light rolled back, and the entire demonic pillar collapsed. The Great Barrier Formation revealed itself again, but in just a moment, the flaw expanded by more than 10 li again, and the speed of the formation's collapse was also increasing. Whoosh! The demonic pillar had just turned into demonic chi and dissipated, and there was another sharp whistling sound of wind. In the midst of the demonic chi, the huge demonic body of the demonic array's devil spirit suddenly appeared. Its fat arms waved, and its fists smashed into the Celestial's face. The Celestial was caught off guard and was actually sent flying. Damn it! Xiaohua was very anxious in his heart. Inside the demonic chi is the domain of the demonic array's devil spirit. He pretended to be weak for so long, and his purpose was to tear the Great Barrier Formation apart. Now that the Great Barrier Formation has been broken, this guy will definitely use a heavy hand. This Xiao can only see how to repair the Great Barrier Formation when the human cultivators are entangled with the Devil Emperor. Xiaohua's figure hurriedly teleported over, but the profound qi in his body had not recovered. His figure swayed, and a kind of feeling of bones and tendons numbness appeared. At this moment, the Celestial roared again and leaped into the air, pouncing towards the demonic array's devil spirit. The demonic array's devil spirit was not afraid. It opened its mouth and spat out a blood-red light that shattered the void and pounced towards the Celestial. Behind the demonic array's devil spirit, boom! Another demonic pillar that reached the sky came crashing down once again. Just as the demonic pillar fell on the Great Barrier Formation, a burst of wild laughter came from the dark void. Xiaohua hurriedly looked up and saw that the Devil Emperor Qi's figure had strangely appeared between the demonic pillars. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He once again looked towards where the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua was. Sure enough, there was still a Devil Emperor like the Devil Emperor Qi there, but the Devil Emperor's aura on that Devil Emperor's body was gradually fading away. Damn it! This is one of the Devil Emperor's divine abilities. Xiaohua suddenly understood. He recalled the situation when he first met the Devil Emperor. However, before the wild laughter of the Devil Emperor Qi disappeared, another angry, puzzled and surprised voice came from his mouth. How is this possible? Where are the blood spirits inside the Great Barrier Formation? How could you devour all the blood spirits? Chapter 4171. At this moment, Demon Emperor Qi's cold voice came from the mouth of the demonic formation's demonic spirit. You and I agreed to split it 50-50. How can I go back on my words? Besides, you came to the ruins first and I came later. I should be the one asking you this, right? Demon Emperor Qi was at a loss for words. He said angrily, I entered the ruins first, but in order not to attract the attention of the humans in the ruins and let those wandering souls be tainted with evil energy and dirty blood, I didn't devour those immature blood spirits. Moreover, when I left the ruins, these blood spirits were all perfectly fine within the Great Barrier Formation. Why are those blood spirits gone now that you've broken the formation? The matter of the blood spirits is the same as the matter of the demonic saber murder. I've never heard of it. Demon Emperor Qi's voice was still indifferent. Besides, you also saw that I was used by the demonic formation. Previously, I was just following the plan to break the ruins' realm guardian formation. I didn't stay in the ruins for even a moment. Do you think I can devour tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of blood spirits? Don't tell me you didn't know that there were demons refining demonic banners in the ruins before, right? But, Demon Emperor Qi was dumbfounded. They worked together with the demonic formation's demonic spirit to use the demonic world's supreme secret technique to isolate the ruins from the netherworld. They wanted to accumulate blood spirits in the ruins, But who would have thought that when it was time to harvest, these blood spirits actually disappeared? No one could accept this. At this moment, Demon Emperor Qi seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly looked at Buddha Bodhi. However, looking at the Buddha light around Bodhi, Demon Emperor Qi still didn't understand. He didn't believe that Bodhi had a divine ability that surpassed the demonic formation's demonic spirit. Therefore, he unconsciously looked at Xiaohua again. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's face was innocent and still looked injured. Before Demon Emperor Qi could think more, Confucian cultivator Xiaohua had already activated his innate true energy to kill the Demon Emperor's clone. The group of cultivators moved their figures and surrounded Demon Emperor Qi again. Fellow Taoist. Bone-honing Xiaohua's weak voice sounded in Xiaohua's mind. I can't hold on for long. The remnant consciousness in this celestial skeleton is too fierce. All right. Xiaohua nodded and instructed. Then lead the devil spirit of the devil array into the realm protection grand array. Before Xiaohua could finish speaking, a great change occurred within the space of the two formations. The devil spirit, who was fighting with the celestial, suddenly retreated. It raised its head and spat out another bolt of lightning. Woo! This time, it spat out a pitch-black thunderbolt that was dozens of feet long. This thunderbolt crossed the space of thousands of miles and really landed on the devil formation above them. Rumble! The huge demonic array began to tremble. Demonic chi that spanned hundreds of miles came crashing down like a mountain. What are you doing? Xiaohua was a little stunned. Others might not know about this huge devil ball, but he was very clear about it. Previously, when he used the soul punishment essence light to kill the golden-winged great pringbone bird, it was this devil ball that sucked away 30% of the soul punishment essence light. Although the devil chi had isolated Xiaohua's perception, Xiaohua knew that the inside of this devil balloon was definitely the wood and water magnetism that he had seen before. However, he really did not understand why the devil clan would take this magnetism. Could it be that they want to use magnetism to break the realm-protecting great array? This is the only possibility. The devil spirit is afraid that it can't completely destroy the realm-protecting great array, so it wants to borrow the power of magnetism. Xiaohua was still pondering, but the devil Emperor Qi did not give him a chance. The devil emperor spread its wings, waved the devil spear in its hand, and pounced on Xiaohua. Xiaohua was shocked. He urged his body to flee in the direction of the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua and the others. At the same time, the bone-tempering Xiaohua also hurriedly urged the celestial to sweep across the sky, wanting to rescue them. However, the devil Emperor Qi was the devil emperor of the mayfly race, who was proficient in spatial escape. With a flap of its wings, it had already arrived in front of Xiaohua. Even the devil spear refined by the bone dragon had already pierced Xiaohua's back. Xiaohua hurriedly formed a seal, and a yellow shield appeared in front of the devil spear. Pa! The devil spear touched the shield, and countless fragments flew up with the wind. The devil spear turned into a bone dragon, and the dragon's horn showed a dizzy color. Xiaohua's back twisted strangely, swish! At this moment, a golden light flashed, like a thunderbolt, and chopped the devil Emperor Qi's devil spear arm. Ka-ka! A series of crisp sounds rang out. The Tengjiao shears revealed a domineering golden light, and the devil emperor's devil arm was immediately cut off by the Tengjiao shears. The devil Emperor Qi was stunned, because the Tengjiao shears should be in the hands of the green-robed Xiaohua, and the latter was still some distance away. The devil Emperor Qi did not even see the green-robed Xiaohua take out the Tengjiao shears. However, after the devil Emperor Qi recovered from his shock, he did not feel anything else. For a devil emperor, any part of his devil body could be regenerated, so there was no need to spend too much effort. However, the moment the devil Emperor Qi's arm was regenerated, the scene in front of him made him go completely crazy. Because, in the instant he was stunned, the devil spear that no one was controlling in midair disappeared. It disappeared into thin air. There was no fluctuation of magic power, no sign of any omen. Roar! The devil Emperor Qi roared. A pair of devil wings flapped, and devil Qi scattered into the void. Fluctuations spread all around Xiaohua, and thousands of white bones shot out, blocking Xiaohua's path. Ha! Xiaohua laughed. He waved his hand, and a circle of golden light flashed, and all the white bones were cut off by the Tengjiao shears. Following his laughter, Xiaohua's figure teleported away. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua and the other clones broke through some of the restrictions of the devil formation and teleported around the devil Emperor Qi. Even soul cultivator Xiaohua and Sun Jian came out from the other battles to deal with the devil Emperor Qi at this point. How could the devil Emperor Qi not know that he had fallen into Xiaohua's trap? From the beginning, the other party had taken a fancy to the devil spear in his hand, which could contend against the devil saber. He even flew out from the battle to deliver the devil spear for himself. Ayo ayo! The devil Emperor Qi roared several times, and devil Qi soared into the sky. His wings flapped again, and his devil body teleported. However, what puzzled Xiaohua was that the devil Emperor Qi did not chase after him. Instead, he retreated and flew directly to the place where the wood and water origin magnetism fell. Then, the devil horn on the devil Emperor Qi's forehead frantically rushed out and landed on the devil pillar that was attacking the realm protecting grand array. The devil pillar became more and more frantic under the fluctuations, and like a violent wave, it attacked the devil formation. Similarly, right after the devil pillar, the wood and water origin magnetism increased its speed and rushed into the flames of the realm protecting grand array. Conspiracy! There must be a conspiracy here. Xiaohua stood in midair and did not have the slightest joy of getting the devil spear. He screamed madly in his heart, "I should have thought of something. But why can't I think of anything?" The devil clan would definitely not use the wood and water origin magnetism for no reason. Besides, wasn't the realm protecting grand array of the ruins already broken? Why do they still need the wood and water origin magnetism? If the devil Emperor Qi did not come to snatch the devil spear, why did he fiddle with the origin magnetism? As the wood and water origin magnetism fell into the great array, the heavy devil Qi in the surroundings began to peel off, revealing the wood and water origin magnetism with devil veins inside. Xiaohua immediately sensed the blood essence he left inside. However, under the interference of the devil flame and devil Qi, Xiaohua's blood essence did not completely permeate the wood and water origin magnetism. Xiaohua's consciousness swept over, but it was still blocked by the devil Qi, and he could not absorb the wood and water origin magnetism into his space. Just as Xiaohua's consciousness swept over with his divine sense, the devil Emperor Qi seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly turned his head, and his devil sense swept over madly. "Surround the devil Emperor Qi." Xiaohua hurriedly ordered the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua and the other clones, and he prepared to rush under the realm protecting grand array to take a look. After the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua and the other clones, there were also human cultivators of the ruins who chased after them. Even the devil Emperor Qi waved his devil hammer and smashed it towards the realm protecting grand array. Xiaohua's thoughts were the same as the cultivators of the ruins. He did not want the battlefield to shift to the ruins, so he hurriedly teleported to the place where the realm protecting grand array was torn apart. At this moment, the realm protecting grand array where the wood and water origin magnetism landed suddenly emitted the sound of bubbling. In the midst of the dissipating flames, a gorgeous extreme magnetic origin light suddenly appeared. It was so beautiful in the crimson flames. The green and black extreme magnetic origin light were like blooming daisies, falling into the crimson flames one after another. However, this beauty was also cruel. The extreme magnetic origin light was like a sharp blade, cutting down the flames piece by piece. In just a few breaths, the realm protecting grand array had spread more than 1,000 miles. Looking at the gorgeous origin light, and seeing the traces of devil Qi and scarlet blood light in the origin light, Xiaohua's heart gave birth to a strange feeling. He immediately thought of the day when he discovered the origin magnetic space in Yong'an Mountain. At that time, the origin magnetic field above the cliff was so beautiful and so austere. The fire and earth origin magnetic field in the origin magnetic field really moved Xiaohua. Not good. Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly understood something. There's a problem with the fire and earth origin magnetic field. This Xiao has already dripped my blood essence into it more than 10 years ago. According to the experience of the hidden immortal continent, my blood essence can already cover the fire and earth origin magnetic field. Let's not talk about the blood essence in the demonic array. There is demonic chi in the magnetic field, but there is no demonic chi in the magnetic field under the cliff. Why is it that when I flew over the southwest border several times, I didn't notice any movement in my blood essence? Could it be that the origin magnetic field was also tampered with by the devil race? If so, then why did the devil race tamper with the two origin magnetic fields? While pondering, Xiao Hua had already descended from the realm protecting Grand Array. At this moment, the wood and water origin magnetic field had already fallen into the air, and the ground was precisely where the cliff was located. The black and green extreme magnetic origin light of the wood and water origin magnetic field filled the entire space. It was even more beautiful than what Xiao Hua saw before. However, when Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over and saw everything that happened at the cliff, he unconsciously felt his soul fly out of his body. Chapter 4172. The space within several tens of thousands of li was filled with extreme magnetic rays. However, other than the black and green extreme magnetic rays of wood and water, the other two types of magnetic rays were also rapidly flashing in the space. These two types of magnetic rays were red and yellow and were entangled with the black and green extreme magnetic rays. The red extreme magnetic rays collided with the black extreme magnetic rays and the yellow extreme magnetic rays collided with the green extreme magnetic rays, bursting forth with powerful might. This might be powerful, but under the sharp extreme magnetic rays, it was slightly insufficient. The four extreme magnetic rays were nothing in the air, but once they landed on the ground where the broken cliff was, the entire ground was cut apart by the extreme magnetic rays. What was special was that the large pieces of land that were cut apart were fiercely pushed away under the might of the magnetic rays. Even though the earth attribute was the majority in the land, there were many things of the five elements. Under the innate rejection and cutting of the four types of magnetic rays, the land of the five elements all collapsed. It was as if there was an incomparably huge hand that was tearing this land apart and forcefully pulling the southwest border of the ruins away from the ruins. It can still be like this? This is the rhythm of completely tearing the ruins apart? Damn it, these devils are really too imaginative. Seeing this situation, how could Xiao Hua not know the devil's plan other than being shocked? What was special was that the fire and earth magnetic rays that were previously buried under the broken cliff, under the push of the wood and water magnetic rays that the devil brought over, they dug deeper into the ground. Following the penetration of the magnetic rays, the collapsing southwest border continued to collapse and spread towards the center of the ruins. This spreading speed was extremely fast. Tens of thousands of li of land disappeared. Large pieces of rocks and soil rushed into the sky and floated in the air following the law of the extreme magnetic rays. If there was no method to collect these two magnetic rays, it would not take long before the entire ruins would be torn into pieces by the magnetic rays. The entire star would turn into dust in the star field. How could Xiao Hua dare to be negligent? He hurriedly released his consciousness and wanted to collect the metal and wood magnetic rays into the space like before. It was a pity that the wood and water magnetic rays were incomparably heavy and could not be collected at all. What was special was that the extreme magnetic ray that was tainted with demonic energy was so sharp that even the Devil Emperor could not detect it. Xiao Hua's attempt was fruitless, so he could only give up. Immediately after, Xiao Hua took out the sword gourd with a flick of his hand. Under the urging of his magic power, the soul execution origin light transformed into a waterfall that charged into midair. Even though the soul execution origin light had some attractive force that drew away a portion of the extreme magnetic origin light, this portion of origin light was truly too little and was utterly unable to have the effect of preventing the ruins from shattering. Moreover, Xiao Hua continuously used the 3 corpses in lightning, 5 qi righteous lightning, and 9 heavens divine lightning. When these lightning bolts fell into the origin magnetic field, they were all drawn away with all their might. Similarly, they were unable to stop anything. What should we do? Xiao Hua was truly at his wit's end. Looking at the ground that was rapidly collapsing, his eyes turned rapidly. At this moment, the previously impregnable Great Barrier Array began to crumble just like the ruins. A huge amount of demonic chi was like a tidal wave, extinguishing the scarlet flames wherever it went. Blood rivers and demonic pillars descended from the sky, and countless Devil Clan members rushed out from the demonic chi, charging into the Great Array. The cultivators of the ruins had long been prepared when they saw the realm-protecting formation being broken. While organizing a formation to resist, they also issued orders to the nearby disciples to go over and face the enemy. Even though the devils rushed in crazily, the human cultivators at this time were all in the void refinement and Tao transformation realm. Except for some devil monarchs who could resist, the other devils were all turned into ashes by the cultivators' magic treasures. Xiaohua looked at the brilliance of the magic treasures on his left that soared into the sky and listened to the endless rumbling sounds, but his mouth was abnormally bitter. Although his arrival in the ruins had added a lot of variables to the war between Taoists and devils, and he even thought that he could control the situation of the war just now, the cruel reality told him that any war was not a one-man game. No one could control the situation of the war at will. Unless this person had strength that surpassed everything and could turn the clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Obviously, the current Xiaohua was far from having such strength. Even if he was a heavenly being, he could not. However, just as Xiaohua was racking his brains to think, he suddenly discovered a strange phenomenon. The Devil Emperor Qi, who was abnormally ferocious before, was now activating his wings. Although he was besieged by the Soul Cultivator Xiaohua and the Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua, his devil consciousness was still exploring around him. He did not care about the earth that was torn apart by the two magnetic fields. On the contrary, the Devil Emperor Qi, who was silent before, activated his body at this time. While fighting with the Dragon Vein Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi, he moved towards the magnetic field. As for the Devil Formation Devil Spirit, it seemed to have reached its limit. While fighting with the bone-honing Xiaohua, the power of its hands and feet was also reduced by 30%. Previously, the Devil Emperor Qi and the Devil Emperor Qi were the first to rush into the realm-protecting formation. Moreover, they also mentioned the Blood Spirit. Obviously, their target of besieging the ruins was those wandering souls. Now, this wandering soul has been taken away by this Xiao Mao. This made their plan fail. Even if they capture the ruins, I'm afraid they will not achieve their previous goal. However, they are still fighting here. Although it's because there are still humans in the ruins, the most important thing is the agreement with the Devil Emperor Qi. The three Devil Emperors must have their own plans. What is this Devil Emperor Qi's goal? Xiaohua thought to himself. Moreover, looking at his appearance, he is really looking for something. Moreover, this thing is inside the ruins. It's even at the southwest border. The southwest border is so broken. Clearly, there were humans or devils who used this method to search for it in the past. Or perhaps, this human is related to the Shindao sect. Yunche was right, the Divine Blade Clan and the Devil Emperor Qi were indeed looking for the same thing. This thing is enough to make the Devil Emperor of the Devil Realm jealous. However, this thing, what is it? The Dao sect's magic cannot find it, the Devil race's divine ability cannot find it, and can only rely on two magnetic fields to tear the earth apart to find it? Countless gravel and soil rushed into the sky. Similarly, the huge magnetic light rotated in the sky like a spiral. In the sky, the gorgeous aurora appeared again. Even more magnetic fields fell into the earth. Even more mountains, hills, and soil were crushed under the might of this heaven and earth. Xiaohua tried the power of the domain and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He cursed in his heart, "Damn it, these 5 elemental magnetic fields are really too abnormal. No wonder the 5 elemental wishful heaven-reaching staff needs to be used." Just as Xiaohua cursed, his body suddenly trembled. Boundless ecstasy appeared in his eyes. It was as if a hand was about to reach out from his throat. He couldn't help but slap his head and shout, "Damn it! I'm really stupid to the extreme." The reason why the 5-elemental wishful heaven-reaching staff can refine the 5 elemental magnetic fields together is because it uses the principle of the 5 elements engendering each other. Metal gives birth to water, water gives birth to wood, wood gives birth to fire, fire gives birth to earth, and earth gives birth to metal. By refining the magnetic fields of the 5 elemental magnetic fields together, it can create a magic weapon that doesn't entangle with any realm. And what the 3 great devil emperors are using today is also the principle of the 5 elements engendering each other. Metal restrains wood, wood restrains earth, earth restrains water, water restrains fire, and fire restrains metal. By combining these magnetic fields together, they can create a repulsive force that no one can stop, and then use this repulsive force to destroy the ruins? If I can use the principle of the 5 elements engendering each other and use the method to refine the 5 elemental wishful heaven-reaching staff, won't I be able to stop this crazy magnetic light? While Xiaohua was thinking, his gaze quickly landed on the 2 magnetic fields. The majestic object in the sky was the wood and water magnetic field, and the magnetic field under the earth was the fire and earth magnetic field. If he wanted to use the principle of the 5 elements engendering each other, he would need the water and fire magnetic field or the wood and earth magnetic field. Of course, it wasn't just the 5 elemental magnetic fields, he also needed the place where the 5 elemental magnetic fields were combined and refined by the innate mother. Xiaohua just happened to collect the water and fire magnetic fields under the black wind ridge of the hidden immortal mainland. Moreover, there were innate fire jellyfish and innate fire jellyfish in his space. In other words, Xiaohua already had the conditions to subdue the 2 destructive magnetic fields. However, the magnetic light was so powerful now that Xiaohua couldn't get close to it. The domain and mind that he could rely on also couldn't get close to it. Moreover, the 3 great devil emperors were nearby. How could they allow him to collect these 2 magnetic fields? At this point, Xiaohua already didn't dare to think too much. The magnetic force's range was very wide, and now was just the beginning. It could only harm the surface of the Earth. If after a period of time, the magnetic force would seep into the Earth's core, or affect the stability of the ruins, not to mention the arrival of a star storm, even a gust of wind would be able to blow the ruins away, right? Fellow Taoists! Xiaohua decisively shouted, I have something to do. You all surround the 2 devil emperors, don't let them disturb I. Alright. Soul cultivator Xiaohua and the others sensed Xiaohua's intention. They all nodded and urged their magic power to attack the devil emperors, waiting for Xiaohua to cast his spell. Without waiting for Xiaohua to take out the water and fire magnetic fields from his space, the devil aura around Devil Emperor Qi's body suddenly flourished. Then he raised his hand and patted his head. Just like a Tao cultivator casting a spell, a blood light soared into the sky and fell down. It was precisely mixed with the wood and earth magnetic field's origin light. And in a moment, this blood light was like a layer of densely packed little worms, wriggling on the torn earth. Xiaohua knew that this was Devil Emperor Qi using the devil race's secret technique to search for something. He didn't hesitate at all. His mind entered the space and took out the water and fire magnetic fields. Boom! When his mind entered the space, a rumbling sound could be heard in the sky. Not only was the air compressed to the point that it gave birth to an explosive sound, even the unparalleled magnetic light was distorted by the pressure. The 3,650 mu in size of the water and fire magnetic fields, emitting red and black, appeared in front of the human race and devil race's eyes. Even the 3 great devil emperors were startled by the sudden appearance of this huge object. The moment the red fire polar magnetic rays and the black water polar magnetic rays appeared, they immediately changed their original directions and blended with the raging fire polar magnetic rays and water polar magnetic rays in the air. At the same time, the mutual restraint between the wood polar magnetic rays and the fire polar magnetic rays and the earth polar magnetic rays was greatly reduced. As a result, the torn land also slowed down. Chapter 4173. Oh! Seeing this, Demon Emperor Qi roared and swung his demonic hammer. His demonic leg swept across and even his silver-black demonic arm attacked the soul cultivator Xiaohua. He wanted to pounce on the water and fire magnetic field. Seeing this, the Taoist cultivators were overjoyed. Many of the cultivators who were fighting the demon monarch abandoned the demon monarch and flew over to stop Demon Emperor Qi. On the other hand, Demon Emperor Qi glanced at the water and fire magnetic field and then looked at Xiaohua. He didn't do anything. Clearly, he wasn't interested in whether ruins was torn apart or not. However, just as they were about to block Devil Emperor Kuang let out a furious roar. His fat arm swung through the air for a moment, then suddenly pierced through the void and appeared next to the water and fire magnets. Boom! The arm pierced through the magnets, and a seemingly corporeal pillar of Devil Qi slammed into the magnets. The magnetic field was more than 3,650 mu in size, but it was blasted away by Demon Emperor Qi. Of course, taking advantage of Demon Emperor Qi's distraction, bone-tempering Xiaohua stretched out his arm and hit Demon Emperor Qi's body. Pooh! Demon Emperor Qi's body was sent flying and the demonic Qi in front of his chest was pulled down by 100 feet. CSI. Demon Emperor Qi let out a sorrowful cry as if he was heavily injured. His body trembled violently and showed signs of collapsing. Seeing this, bone-tempering Xiaohua was overjoyed. He flew forward and at the same time, his 6 arms fell into the void and attacked Devil Emperor Qi from all directions. Xiaohua didn't have time to care about other things. He quickly released his consciousness to control the water and fire magnetic field. However, his consciousness was cut into pieces by the magnetic light and he felt a heart-wrenching pain. Xiaohua's figure trembled, and he gritted his teeth tightly as he tried his best to persist. Right at this moment, the Devil Emperor Qi suddenly let out a long howl towards the sky, and then its enormous body shrunk swiftly before it descended towards the ground. Crack, crack. A rather choppy sound resounded from the devilish armor, and it was precisely the sound of the magnetic rays descending upon it. Demonic Qi and indescribable demonic runes seeped out from the demonic armor. Although these demonic Qi and runes were instantly shattered, they were regenerated in just a few breaths of time. The demonic armor had actually blocked the extreme magnetic origin ray that was capable of tearing apart one's mind. Seeing that the Devil Emperor Qi was about to escape, the soul cultivator Xiaohua and the other cultivators were about to stop him. Xiaohua's heart trembled and he hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoists, ignore him. Let him go and find something. Once he takes the thing, he will naturally not care about these 2 magnets. You all protect I. Don't let the other demons disturb us. I will store these 2 magnets into the space." Yes. Soul cultivator Xiaohua and the other clones knew what Xiaohua was thinking. Right now, the first thing they wanted to do was to protect the safety of the ruins. Any treasure was nothing compared to the lives of the cultivators in the ruins. Everyone agreed and separated, protecting Xiaohua and Yuan Mi together. Rise. Xiaohua clenched his teeth and released his domain to block the extreme magnetic origin ray for his mind. Then, his mind wrapped around the water and fire magnets and pulled them towards the center of the 2 magnets. Boom! As the 3 magnets got closer and closer, the entire space rumbled. More and more extreme magnetic origin rays fused together, and the sound of the earth tearing began to weaken again. At this time, the Devil Emperor Qi had already fallen to the ground. The demonic hammer in his hand fiercely smashed the ground. The originally solid ground seemed to have been hollowed out. Rumble! Pieces of the ground collapsed one after another. In just a moment, a 1,000-li-wide abyss was created. And at this time, the demonic blood that the Devil Emperor Qi had spat out earlier turned into bean-sized demons and flew towards the abyss. Swoosh! In the midst of the battle cries, a soft sound came from the abyss. It seemed to be heard by everyone's ears, but also seemed to be heard by everyone's heart. Then, a kind of faint fluctuation spread throughout the entire world. This is... Xiaohua, who was doing his best to push the water and fire magnets, was also swept by this faint fluctuation. An extremely familiar feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. Xiaohua involuntarily turned his head. However, there was no sign of where he turned his head. The origin of the fluctuation was still in the depths of the earth. This is the power of origin. Although Xiaohua didn't see it, the fluctuation of the power of origin had already penetrated deep into his space. He could clearly sense the fluctuation of the other power of origin. It's just that in this upper realm, the power of law has already weakened. The fluctuation of this power of origin is much stronger than the Dawn Rain continent and the hidden immortal continent. Xiaohua only glanced at it and hurriedly retracted his attention. He accelerated the fusion of the water and fire magnets into the other two magnets. As the water and fire magnets gradually penetrated deeper, the devastating magnetic force finally converged by a large margin. The destruction of the entire heaven and earth also gradually stopped. However, because the magnetic force had already destroyed the structure of the ruins ground, the collapse of the earth still didn't completely stop. Phew! Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. His gaze hurriedly looked towards Devil Emperor Qi and Devil Emperor Qi. Fortunately, Devil Emperor Qi was surrounded by a group of cultivators. Although there were more than 10 devil monarchs assisting him, he was clearly at a disadvantage and temporarily didn't have the energy to care about him. As for Devil Emperor Qi, he was still fighting with bone-honing Xiaohua. The battle was still desperate and looked like it was going to tear the sky apart. Fellow Taoist. Sensing Xiaohua's gaze, bone-honing Xiaohua hurriedly opened his mouth. I can't hold on for more than half a cup of tea. Now, fellow Taoist needs to make a choice. Either let I withdraw and take in the celestial, or let the celestial's consciousness control I. No need. Xiaohua slightly smiled and said a few words in a low voice. Bone-honing Xiaohua was stunned. He raised his eyes to look at the chaotic valley in the distance. The red light flickering in his eyes clearly had a kind of disbelief. Bone-honing Xiaohua then fought and retreated, luring the devil spirit of the devil formation to fly towards that valley. The devil spirit of the devil formation didn't suspect anything and chased closely behind. Seeing bone-honing Xiaohua leave, Xiaohua patted his forehead and opened his delirium destruction Dharma eye. He saw fine rays of various colors crisscrossing, and a wisp of emerald green brilliance slowly flew out from the depths of the earth like the rising sun. That brilliance was so dazzling that Xiaohua hurriedly closed his delirium destruction Dharma eye, not daring to look at it anymore. Origin of wood. Xiaohua sighed. Only this kind of origin item can provoke the judges of the netherworld and the devil emperor of the devil realm to take action. Only this kind of innate spiritual item that can't be detected by ordinary methods can be found by extreme methods like magnetic force. As the saying goes, a man's wealth is his own ruin. Now, because of this origin item, the ruins that is as big as a planet is also being ravaged by the devil race. If it wasn't for me, the entire planet would have been torn apart. Xiaohua knew that now wasn't the time to snatch the origin of wood, so he didn't think about it anymore. He focused on keeping the three magnetic forces together. When the water and fire magnetic forces were gentle with the wood and water magnetic forces, and the fire and earth magnetic forces were mixed together, he waved his hand again. The innate fire jellyfish and the innate fire jellyfish fell into the air. As 2 drops of essence blood seeped into them, the 2 innate items were like 2 dancing butterflies, flying towards the place where the 3 magnetic forces came into contact with each other. Before the 2 innate items could get close to each other, the 2 polar sides of the 3 magnetic forces suddenly let out a strange wind whistling sound. The space dozens of miles to the left of the polar sides instantly collapsed. The collapsed space formed a strange ring, and one ring after another fell towards the 2 innate items. At the same time, waves of energy spread out from the collapsed space to all directions. Wherever the waves passed, countless heaven and earth yuan qi turned into threads of crystal light and fell into the void. Even more so, with the impact of the heaven and earth yuan qi, hurricanes were born in the range of thousands of miles. The 5 elements in the entire space actually showed signs of chaos. With the 5 elements in chaos, the group of human cultivators who were fighting also became a little chaotic. This was because although the magnetic force was weakened, the heaven and earth yuan qi was in chaos. Their magic power actually couldn't control the yuan qi, and their magic treasures and weapons also lost control. Even their brilliance dimmed. As for the devil race, they weren't too affected. They all roared and pounced towards the human race, and the entire battle situation actually changed greatly. At this moment, a dozen or so human cultivators suddenly cried out in surprise, "Look, a phenomenon is descending from the sky." Following the direction of these cultivators' fingers, in the sky above the ruins, the outer layer of the huge demonic formation that surrounded it, and several huge rainbows were born. These rainbows were of 5 colors: red, black, green, white, and yellow, the 5 primary colors. At the end of these huge rainbows, there was a huge halo flashing. The shadows of the vermilion bird, black tortoise, azure dragon, white tiger, and Qilin vaguely appeared, and a huge power shrouded the star field where the ruins was located. As for this huge rainbow, it streaked across the demonic formation, penetrating the entire demonic formation, and countless thin shadows fell on the 3 magnetic forces. A phenomenon is descending from the sky? The divine weapon is formed. Perhaps Xiao Hua didn't know what this phenomenon represented, but Mo Lianxi, Huafei, Shangguansu, and the other cultivators of the ruins understood. All of them looked at Xiao Hua with great surprise, and looked at the 3 magnetic forces that were becoming more and more mysterious under the rainbow. Seeing the envy, jealousy, and hatred in the eyes of the human cultivators, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that the 5 elements wishful heaven-reaching staff was an ancient vicious weapon, but he didn't expect its origin to be so great. He hadn't even started to refine it, and such a phenomenon had already appeared. Xiao Hua's eyes flashed with a fierce look, and he shouted loudly, "Fellow Taoists, whoever dares to come over, whether human or devil, will kill without mercy." How could all of Xiao Hua's doppelgangers not know the importance of this 5 elements wishful heaven-reaching staff? They all responded, and several doppelgangers even abandoned the Devil Emperor and teleported to the middle of Xiao Hua and the 3 magnetic forces. Once the doppelgangers left, the pressure on the Devil Emperor was immediately relieved. He had fought with Xiao Hua before and also suffered a loss. In these dozens of years, he hadn't been idle. For the sake of Xiao Hua's Devil Blade murder, he had racked his brains to find ways and means to deal with Xiao Hua, and even found a devil weapon that was similar to Devil Blade murder. However, he didn't expect that dozens of years were nothing to him, but to Xiao Hua, it was important. His doppelgangers had made great progress, and he had also suffered a loss in Xiao Hua's hands. That devil spear had also been taken away by Xiao Hua without anyone noticing. He could be considered to have tried to steal a chicken but ended up losing the rice used to lure it. Chapter 4174. Most importantly, hundreds of millions of wandering souls were nowhere to be found in the realm protection array of the ruins. The Demon Emperor Qi's 2 goals in coming to the ruins were about to fail. Previously, he was trapped by Xiao Hua's clones and couldn't escape. Now that Xiao Hua's clones were gone, a dozen or so human cultivators flew over, and their cultivations might not be inferior to theirs. However, it wasn't difficult for the Demon Emperor Qi to escape in front of these humans. Looking at the natural phenomenon and the ferocity of Xiao Hua and his clones, the Demon Emperor Qi had a rare thought of escaping. However, looking at the Demon Emperor Qi's figure falling into the abyss, this thought flashed past his mind. After all, he had spent so much effort to besiege the ruins for hundreds of years. There was no reason for him to leave now. The Demon Emperor Qi was somewhat unwilling. The Demon Emperor Qi flapped his wings, and his demonic aura was like a tiger. While blocking the attacks of a group of human cultivators, his demonic consciousness swept toward Xiao Hua. The Demon Emperor Qi's demonic consciousness swept over and couldn't help but be shocked. His strength was originally higher than Xiao Hua's, but under his demonic consciousness, he couldn't get within 100 miles of Xiao Hua. Needless to say, the natural phenomenon had already confined Xiao Hua. What is this thing? Is it a magic artifact refined by the human race? How can it be so powerful? The Demon Emperor Qi was once again worried. These 2 magnets, clearly, they had been refined by the demon spirit of the demon array with the demon race's secret technique. Could it be that they still belong to the human race? If this magic artifact is successful, what kind of advantage can I have? It's better for me to leave. The demon Emperor Qi had the thought of escaping for the second time. He moved his body, and demonic runes appeared around his body. The runes rushed into the air and blocked the attacks of the human cultivators. Moreover, under the command of the demon Emperor Qi, a few more demon monarchs appeared from the void and blocked in front of him. However, just as he moved, he stopped again. His demonic consciousness looked around and thought to himself, "What's going on? Where's that demon spirit kid? He's holding the demon blade murder. Why haven't I seen him for so long? If I devour that devil spirit, I should be able to become a devil venerable, right?" Thinking of the devil spirit Xiaohua, Devil Emperor Qi hesitated again. He released his devil sense and tried his best to search. Sure enough, after passing through the battlefield of the human race and the devil race, in the distant mountain ridge, Devil Qi once again crisscrossed. That familiar bloodthirst of the devil blade attracted Devil Emperor Qi's devil sense all of a sudden. Understood. I'm afraid that the celestial beings' remains won't be able to kill Brother Devil formation. That's why they called the devil spirit brat to use the devil saber to kill him. The Devil Emperor Yun thought to himself, now, this human Xiaohua is subduing the magnetic field. I don't know what he is refining, but I can't stop him. Seems like now is the time. I might as well go and devour the devil spirit first. If possible, I can take the devil blade murder away. The demon emperor stopped hesitating. His body suddenly shrunk. While fighting the humans, he quietly moved toward the valley. Of course, Xiaohua didn't have the time to care about Demon Emperor Qi's scheme. He was now sitting cross-legged in front of the three magnets, casting spell seals one after another, landing on the gaps between the three magnets and the two Xiantian objects. Xiaohua didn't withdraw his golden body. After trying to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, he felt that its power was not enough, so he simply used the heavenly dragon technique. In midair, not only were the golden dragon patterns fluttering wantonly, but the obscure rumbling sound like a dragon's roar was also incessant. As these lights and shadows flashed, clusters of sparks were born from the gaps. These sparks were different from ordinary flames. They were condensed from strands of extreme magnetic light. Every time they were born, the void was distorted and brought about strange fluctuations. These fluctuations wanted to spread in all directions, but they were attracted by the magnetic force and slowly fell into the magnetic field. Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the other doppelgangers cautiously guarded around Xiaohua. They released their divine thoughts and were carefully on guard. In the entire magnetic field, strange fluctuations were everywhere. The innate objects even disturbed the qi of heaven and earth. Except for the color of the rainbow bridge, the whole sky gradually revealed the image of earth, fire, wind, and thunder, as if a complete world was about to be born in Xiaohua's hands. In the face of such a situation, Xiaohua couldn't help but complain in his heart. Since he got the refining method of the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, he had already comprehended it thoroughly. He knew that this thing was not easy to refine, and he never thought that he would refine it outside the space. At this time, he had no choice but to force it. With his current cultivation, he might be able to refine it successfully, but what time was it? It was the crucial moment of the war with the demon race. How could he spend decades or even centuries to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel? In addition, among the 3 magnetic fields, 2 of them had been refined by the demon race. If Xiaohua wanted to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, he had to bear the brunt of the demon qi and demon blood inside. At this time, the demon qi inside the 2 magnetic fields was like Xiaohua's greatest enemy. In the magnetic fields, they tried their best to fight with Xiaohua for control. This kind of fight was dangerous. If he was careless, not to mention that the 3 magnetic fields would explode again, ruins would fall into greater trouble. Even Xiaohua himself would suffer unimaginable injuries. Therefore, the situation Xiaohua faced now was even worse than the human cultivators who were fighting the demon emperor. However, at this time, Xiaohua could only brace himself to refine it. When the bystanders saw Xiaohua display his might and awe-inspiring power, Who would have thought of the danger inside? Another half a meal's worth of time later, the rainbow bridge that pierced through heaven and earth started to let out a loud rumble. After that, the entire ruins started to shake. The ground that was originally torn apart started to tear apart again. Huge vital chi pillars surged in from all directions and fell into Xiao Hua's spell. Waves after waves of indescribable mysterious waves also flew out from the void and fell into the three magnets. Fellow Taoists, Xiao Hua suddenly shouted, let's attack together. Good. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua, Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua, Green Robe Xiao Hua and the other doppelgangers responded. Everyone was of one mind. They each activated their Dharma idol, whether it was the dragon-shaped Dharma body, the heavenly phoenix demon body, or the 5 Chi's unifications, etc. All of their Dharma powers and divine arts fell into the magnetic fields. Woo-woo. Xiao Hua activated his divine arts. The rainbow bridge let out a rumble. Several 5 elements original forms appeared clearly from the horizon and slowly fell into the magnetic fields with the rainbow bridge. Ha! Just when Xiao Hua was at the crucial moment of refining the 3 magnetic fields, the demon emperor Qi laughed loudly from the abyss that was once again shattered by the 5 elements rainbow. He stepped on the devil flame and flew out. Right above his head, there was a shape that looked like a blood lotus. It was holding an indescribable thing. That thing was formless, soundless, and colorless. It could not be seen by the naked eye, spiritual sense, or devil sense. However, this thing gave birth to an obscure fluctuation in the blood lotus, blowing the blood light that surrounded it into a mess. As for the demon emperor Qi, although he was laughing, he did not take the thing in his hand. That silver-black demonic arm tried its best to dance under the blood lotus. There were also strange fluctuations and demonic patterns on the demonic arm. The demonic arm seemed to be able to control the thing, but it also seemed like it could not. In short, the demon emperor Qi could only fly up with the blood lotus. His huge demonic body followed, and the 2 demonic hammers swayed slightly around him, as if warning the humans to stay away. Seeing that the humans who chased after the demon emperor did not come back, Hua Fei and the other cultivators knew that they were in trouble. Hua Fei then looked at Shangguan Su and then at Emo Lianqi who was fighting the demon emperor Qi in the distance. There was hesitation in his eyes. He hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Shangguan Su to discuss. Brother Shangguan, now that the devil emperor has found what they are looking for, I'm sure they will withdraw their troops. The human race of the ruins might be saved. In my opinion, why don't we give up on fighting with the devil emperor? No. Without waiting for Hua Fei to finish, Shangguan Su said firmly, we must not let the demon emperor succeed. But Hua Fei was a little embarrassed and angry, so he hurriedly asked. Shangguan Su replied coldly, the 3 great demon emperors have clearly reached an agreement. This demon emperor wants this item while the other 2 demon emperors want something else. If this demon emperor obtains this item, he will not hesitate to kill the practitioners of the ruins with the other 2 demon emperors, not to mention whether he will let go of the ruins or not. How are you going to snatch it? Hua Fei also sneered. I can only sense the strong fluctuations of that thing, but I don't even know what it is. Perhaps perfected Xiao has a way. Shangguan Su could not help but whisper to Shangguan Su through telepathy as he watched Xiao Hua show off his invincible power. Hua Fei's gaze was complicated, and he said with a double meaning, Brother Shangguan, perfected Xiao is an outer realm cultivator, and the cultivators of the ruins have offended him. Now that he has taken advantage of us and eaten the meat, we even left some soup for him. Do you still want to count on him? What exactly is a Dharma artifact refined by nearly 10 7-stage Dao transformation cultivators working together? Shangguan Su was envious when he saw the 5 elements origin form approaching the ruins and the changes in the ruins. This is the wood origin? Just as Shangguan Su and Hua Fei were discussing, the Shindao sect master Yun Che, who was in the distance, suddenly shouted with ecstasy on his face. How is this possible? The ruins is just a corner of the cultivation world. How can there be an origin item here? What? The wood origin? Shangguan Su glanced at Hua Fei, and both of their eyes were filled with shock. Although they did not know what Xiao Hua was refining, They were familiar with the divine abilities of origin items. They could not help but look at Xiaohua. At this time, Yun Che had already released his primordial spirit Dharma idol. There was an oval-shaped red mole between his eyebrows. The red mole was flashing with a scarlet halo, which was similar to the color of the devil blood. It seemed that Yun Che had discovered the wood origin through this red mole. Damn it. Devil Emperor Qi heard Yun Che mention the wood origin and cursed angrily. His silver-black arm suddenly reached for the wood origin again. Unfortunately, just as he was about to touch the wood origin suddenly flew high and broke away from the devil blood's pursuit. The blood lotus then turned into tens of thousands of blood drops. Chapter 4175. Seeing that the wood origin was about to break free, the Devil Emperor Qi wasn't in a hurry. Go! With a soft command, he opened his mouth and activated his devilish energy. The blood droplets spread out like a net again. Sure enough, another small blood lotus appeared a few dozen meters away from him. The Devil Emperor Qi scanned the area with his devilish senses and saw that many human cultivators were about to make a move. He didn't dare to be careless. Just like the humans, he clenched his teeth and shot out a bolt of pitch-black lightning from the devilish armor in front of his chest. As soon as it appeared, the Devil Emperor Qi's body shrank by one size. However, when the light landed on his devilish arm, the silver light on his devilish arm grew brighter and brighter. The Devil Emperor Qi fell toward the wood origin again. Buzz buzz. The space near the wood origin was trembling, and so was the Devil Emperor Qi's silver-black arm. The tremors gradually spread into the Devil Emperor Qi's devilish body. The outer layer of his devilish body began to shed as layers of devilish patterns fell off, revealing the sturdy muscles underneath. Moreover, a ferocious aura spread out from the top of his head. A few human cultivators who were secretly approaching the wood origin were actually frightened by the aura and trembled. A devil sovereign! Shangguan Su was shocked and realized something. He exclaimed, "The Devil Emperor is relying on the wood origin to become a devil sovereign?" Kiki. The Devil Emperor Qi laughed wildly. The origin energy had already begun to seep into his devil core, and an unprecedented feeling was born from it. Swoosh! At this moment, a clear cry descended from the sky. Yun Che raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. A ray of earthy yellow light shot out, and then a copper coin the size of a fist flew out and landed right where the Devil Emperor Qi was. Following the trajectory of the coin, a faint, thin line emerged from the square eye of the coin. This thin line was very strange. It ignored space, demonic senses, and blood lotuses, and pierced through the wood essence. The wood essence spun and came out of the demonic arm of the demon Emperor Ho, revealing a medium-sized hole in the demonic arm. The wood origin that was pierced through by the thin line disappeared in a flash. When it appeared again, it had already landed in the square eye of the copper coin. Ah! The light on the top of Yun Che's head brought the copper coin and the wood origin down rapidly. He couldn't help but laugh wildly. At this moment, he finally understood why the Tai Bai sect set up the ruins. This wood origin was definitely worth the Tai Bai sect's side branch to guard and search for. Furthermore, the tearing of the southwest border of the ruins should have something to do with the Tai Bai sect. The Devil Emperor, Tai Bai, and the Devil Emperor Qi's arrival, and the Devil Emperor Qi's head. Moreover, Yun Che didn't seem to care to absorb the wood origin into his body to absorb the wood origin, as if he wasn't afraid that the wood origin of the wood to explode his body to explode to pieces. Seeing Yun Che's appearance, many cultivators who had some foundation in the ruins also thought of the same thing. Just as Yun Che was getting carried away and the Devil Emperor Qi was getting flustered and exasperated, Mo Lianqi suddenly frowned again. Although the Devil Emperor Qi was furious, he didn't use any divine ability to chase after the wood origin. Instead, his actions seemed to be putting on an act. Mo Lianqi was shocked and hurriedly shouted, "Brother Yun, be careful of the willow." Unfortunately, before he could finish his sentence, an emerald green brilliance flashed in midair. Immediately after, a muffled puff sound rang out. The golden light protecting Yun Che's body was instantly annihilated. The space in front of the primordial spirit manifestation's chest twisted and a speck of emerald green that was stained with blood seeped out. As soon as this emerald green appeared, it immediately expanded and gradually grew like a germinating seed. However, the price of this seed's growth was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The fertilizer for the seed was actually Yun Che's primordial spirit image. As the seed grew into a sapling, Yun Che's primordial spirit image rapidly shrank. The faint halo above the image was now abnormally dim. Yun Che's primordial spirit had been absorbed by the sapling. It's actually really you? Yun Che lowered his head and looked at the bloodstain on his chest. He sadly turned his head back and his eyes were filled with disappointment, regret, and pain. He said in a low voice, "How could it be you?" "Be careful of what?" Behind Yun Che, the green light dissipated, revealing Lu Wuxia's figure. At this time, Lu Wuxia had a smile on her face. Her gaze swept past the crowd and landed on Emolienshi. She asked sarcastically, "Be careful of Lu Wuxia?" "That's right." Emolienshi's face was also angry, and even a little twisted. Seeing the green color on Yun Che's face, she knew that Lu Wuxia was vicious. She actually used the Misty School's secret art to attack Yun Che's primordial spirit. She scolded, "Be careful of Lu Wuxia." "Why should I be careful of Lu Wuxia and not Emolienshi?" Lu Wuxia raised her hand and flicked her middle finger. A wooden arrow flew out and landed on the copper coin. The wooden arrow made an ingenious turn and landed in her hand with the origin of wood. Her hand was as beautiful as a flower. Looking at the copper coin that imprisoned the origin of wood, Lu Wuxia could not help but smile. "It's very simple." Emolienshi looked at Yun Che's life force fading away with heartache. She said coldly, "When the devil race surrounded the ruins, this MO had already privately looked for sect master Yun." Although the devil race could surround the ruins and seal most of the teleportation channels, how could the devil race know about those secret teleportation channels? Even if they have innate spatial talents, they definitely wouldn't be able to discover them, unless they have a spy in the ruins. And this spy must know all the secret teleportation channels in the ruins. In the entire ruins, those who fit this condition can be counted on one hand. Emolienshi looked at Lu Wuxia, as if she wasn't afraid that Lu Wuxia would suddenly attack. Among these people, Sect Master Lu seems to be the most suspicious, right? However, Sect Master Yun didn't care and turned a deaf ear to this Mo's words. "Sigh, as expected, you finally revealed your true colors." Then, Emolienshi looked at Yun Che and asked, "Sect Master Yun, you knew that Lu Wuxia was the most suspicious. Why didn't you guard against her?" Yun Che looked at Lu Wuxia. All of the regret in his eyes had disappeared, leaving behind only a faint trace of sadness. He replied softly, "There are some people that I need to be on guard against, but there are others that I don't want to be on guard against. I'm willing to give my everything to her, and I only hope that she won't let me down." Unfortunately, in her eyes, nothing can compare to power and lust. Everything she does has a purpose. My choice may have been wrong, but I don't regret it. Emolienshi stomped her feet. She was really angry that he didn't fight back. She didn't know what to say. A strange expression appeared on Lu Wuxia's face. She looked at Yun Che and lifted her hand, as if she was about to do something. However, when she touched his hand, she couldn't feel any magic power. Lu Wuxia then asked, "You knew all along?" "I can't take what Sect Master Mo said seriously. But when I heard that you and Spiritual Master Shao were fighting together, and Spiritual Master Shao went missing, you were heavily injured and went into seclusion, I immediately became suspicious. You've always treasured your reputation, so how could you be injured so easily? And when I heard that Spiritual Master Shao had a devil art, I was even more certain. If the devil race has a spy in the ruins, then it must be you." Lu Wuxia's expression tightened. Then she asked with interest, "Then why didn't you tell Spiritual Master Xiaohua? Although you're not my match, Xiaohua has the strength to do so." "Spiritual Master Shao abhors evil. If I told him, would you still be alive? Moreover, Spiritual Master Shao is an outsider after all," Yun Che said. He wanted to take out the pill, but his strength seemed to have been sucked out. He only had the strength to speak. Emolienshi was about to move, but the Devil Emperor waved his arm and blocked in front of Emolienshi. Lu Wuxia glanced at Emolienshi and said indifferently, "His heart veins have been destroyed, and his primordial spirit has been sucked into the wood spirit. You don't need to waste your time. I just want to get the wood origin to surpass the Tao transformation. Don't force me to do it." "I forced you to do it?" Emolienshi was furious. She pointed at Yunche and said, "You did it yourself. No one forced you. Killed the person you trusted the most. No one can accompany me on the path of Tao transformation." Lu Wuxia said indifferently, "There's no such thing as trust in this world." Emolienshi looked at the dying Yunche and felt an indescribable pain in her heart. She snorted and said, "Did you hear it with your own ears? This is Lu Wuxia's answer. Are you satisfied now?" "It doesn't matter if I'm satisfied or not." Yunche shrunk his neck. The little sapling in front of his chest had grown into a big tree, and his body had returned to the size of an ordinary person. He really looked like a human hanging under a big tree. He said in a lonely voice, "I just feel a little cold. That's because your heart is cold. I told you long ago." Emolienshi didn't know how to comfort Yunche. "Sect Master Emo, do you remember the song I hummed to you?" Yunche suddenly asked. Emolienshi was stunned, but she replied without hesitation, "Of course I remember. Why do you suddenly ask?" "Good." Yunche's eyes shone with a trace of brilliance, and the corner of his mouth curled up as he said, "I really miss those days. The sky was blue, the moon was curved, the water was clear, and the clouds were faint. Pitiful, I'll leave everything to you to decide. I want peace." After saying that, Yunche tilted his head. A Tao transformation cultivator actually died just like that. This really shocked everyone present. After all, a Tao transformation cultivator had already cultivated a primordial spirit. A simple primordial spirit thread divine ability could allow a Tao transformation cultivator to escape. How could he die so easily? Of course, if Yunche wasn't determined to die, then it was because Lu Wuxia's method was too powerful. Sigh. Emolienshi sighed as she watched Yunche's body rapidly wither away. Not even a trace of his primordial spirit could escape. She began to sing an inexplicable ballad. The ballad was cheerful and sad at the same time. However, as the ballad was sung, the copper coin in Lu Wuxia's hand suddenly emitted a sharp energy fluctuation. Chapter 4176. "Oh, this is bad." Lu Wuxia sensed this fluctuation and immediately had a bad feeling in her heart. She immediately decided to teleport away, but it was already too late. The copper coin suddenly exploded under the influence of Emolienshi's ordinary song. The copper coin was an artifact that could seal the origin of wood, so its explosion was extremely powerful. Lu Wuxia was just about to teleport away when the shockwave had already enveloped an area of 1,000 miles. Not just Lu Wuxia, even Emolienshi, Devil Emperor Qi, and many other human and devil cultivators were trapped. Strands of earthy yellow lightning emerged from the copper coin's explosion. In the blink of an eye, half of Lu Wuxia's head and half of her shoulder were torn apart. Moreover, even more lightning surged out from the cracks and pounced on all the humans and devils within 1,000 miles. Emolienshi suddenly came to a realization. She knew that Yunche couldn't kill Lu Wuxia, so he told her the method to kill Lu Wuxia. Moreover, he couldn't face Lu Wuxia's death, so he didn't guard against Lu Wuxia. His heart was filled with grief, and he sped up the song again. However, when he saw how powerful the copper coin was, he hesitated and stopped. In the few breaths of time he stopped, the copper coin's shackles loosened. Devil Emperor Qi immediately laughed sinisterly and stretched his devil arm into the void. Emolienshi was shocked and quickly retreated. But after retreating a few miles, Emolienshi suddenly discovered that at the place where he was standing before, hundreds of white bones had emerged from the void and pierced into a Emolienshi who looked exactly like him. Moreover, several miles to the left of Lu Wuxia, a faint layer of mist was destroyed by the copper coin's explosion as if it had been washed away by water, revealing a completely different world. An illusion formation? Mo Lianxi turned pale with fright. He really couldn't understand how he had fallen into an illusion formation. Moreover, he wasn't the only one. All the human and devil cultivators in the ruins, and even the 3 devil emperors, had fallen into this illusion formation as well. Who in the world had such great divine ability? At this time, Mo Lianxi's face suddenly revealed ecstasy. After all, if this place was an illusion formation, and his body could be transformed, then did that mean everything that had happened before was also an illusion? He could not help but look towards the place where Yun Che had fallen. How he wished that Yun Che's figure could still be standing in the sky right now. Unfortunately, just as he released his divine sense, a faint voice sounded in his ears. Sect Master Mo, don't look anymore. This illusion array was set up by me, but the core of the illusion array is the demonic array's demonic spirit. Fellow Taoists, you're only affected by it. Everything that happened before is real. Previously, when fellow Taoist Yun Che invited this Xiao to be a guest elder of the Shindao sect, he already told this Xiao about the spies in the ruins. This Xiao has met the sect masters of the 3 great sects, and has long since suspected Lu Wuxia. However, while I was on guard against Lu Wuxia, I neglected her ambitions. I didn't know that she also coveted the origin of wood. Moreover, you've also seen that this Xiao has to use all his strength to collect the 2 origin magnetic stones. I don't have any spare energy to guard against her attacking others. However, Sect Master Yun Che's magic treasure is truly powerful. This Xiao is worried about how to kill Devil Emperor Qi. Why don't Sect Master Mo let this magic treasure explode? It'll also fulfill Sect Master Yun's wish. Sect Master Mo, don't be afraid of injuring our human cultivators. This Xiao's illusion array can control a portion of the magic treasure's explosive power, so that the human cultivators won't be injured. Moreover, if we don't kill Devil Emperor Qi now, won't more human cultivators die when he goes crazy later? Although the voice was Xiaohua's, it was not Xiaohua who said it. At this time, Xiaohua was using all his strength to collect the 3 origin magnetic stones. The one who transmitted the message was the green-robed Xiaohua. Hearing Xiaohua's words, Mo Lianxi was shocked. He was clear about Xiaohua's cultivation level, and he also believed in the divine ability of the incense cult's founder. He believed that Xiaohua was the incense cult's savior. However, he really could not believe that a mere Dao transformation realm cultivator could set up such a huge illusion array and confuse 3 great devil emperors. Moreover, one of the 3 devil emperors was the Devil Emperor Qi of the zombie race, and the devil spirit of the devil formation. However, at this time, there was no time for him to hesitate. He narrowed his eyes and began to chant the ballad again. Rumble. Tens of millions of yellow thunderbolts flashed in the sky not far away. A destructive aura shrouded the area within 1,000 miles. As soon as this terrifying aura appeared, it immediately tore apart the illusion array. Many places where human cultivators were standing were turned into empty space. The devil cultivators who were fighting against the human cultivators were dumbfounded. Devil Emperor Qi also looked at the place where his devil arm had extended out in surprise. Mo Lianxi, whose primordial spirit and physical body had withered just a moment ago, had disappeared. The most shocking of all was Lu Wuxia. After Lu Wuxia's head and arm were destroyed, he had lost all hope and thought that there was no way out for him. But at that moment, Mo Lianxi had hesitated, and the explosive power of the copper coin had weakened. Lu Wuxia had hurriedly fled. In the span of a few breaths, Lu Wuxia had already teleported more than 1,000 kilometers away. However, when she saw the lightning coming again, she realized that she hadn't even moved more than a few feet. The lightning from the copper coin was still right above her head. Lu Wuxia's face was pale. Without hesitation, she opened her mouth, and a pure white Xiaohua appeared. As the Xiaohua appeared, the space around Lu Wuxia immediately collapsed. The remaining half of her head rapidly aged, and her entire physical body gradually withered. However, the copper coin of the Shindao sect was a divine metal object. It could be used to attract the origin of wood, and it was also the nemesis of wood-type spiritual objects. The khaki-colored lightning fell from the sky. Although the pure white Xiaohua propped up a corner of the sky, and the Xiaohua also emitted powerful waves of energy, it only lasted for a few moments under the khaki-colored lightning. The metal waves annihilated the wood waves, creating a kind of annihilation of the 5 elements. This annihilation was like a pitch-black vortex, annihilating everything within a few miles. As the sect leader of one of the 3 great sects of the ruins, Lu Wuxie was a well-known expert in the ruins. Now, she was also helpless in the face of this annihilation of the 5 elements. Not only was her broken physical body sucked into the vortex, but her primordial spirit of the 5th stage Dao transformation realm was also sucked into the vortex. Not a single wisp of her soul escaped. It was exactly as the saying went, too clever of a trick, and it ended up ruining Qingqing's life. Naturally, there were hundreds of Dao cultivators around Lu Wuxie. When they were escaping, they were not trapped by the illusory formation. Now, those who were slow to escape were killed, but most of them were still alive. If Lu Wuxie was in such a state, Devil Emperor Qi would not fare any better. Under the illusory formation controlled by the green-robed Xiaohua, many khaki-colored lightning also fell on Devil Emperor Qi's demonic body. Although Devil Emperor Qi's demonic body was tens of thousands of feet tall, the demonic runes on his demonic body shattered when the lightning struck. Waves of demonic light also roared to meet the attack, but these pitch-black lightning all collapsed when it came into contact with the khaki-colored lightning. After the demonic runes were destroyed, the demonic armor appeared. The demonic armor of Devil Emperor Qi seemed to have some history. As the thunderbolts landed, the demonic armor roared furiously as the demonic souls of the devil race emerged from the armor and devoured the thunderbolts. Of course, this only lasted for a moment. Hong long long. Thunderous rumbles came from the demonic armor. The Devil Emperor Qi was like a demonic armor. Unfortunately, the demonic armor was a demonic slayer armor. As the thunderbolts pierced into the demonic body of Devil Emperor Qi, it tore apart the demonic body that Devil Emperor Qi had spent a long time refining. Devil Emperor Qi roared into the sky, and his demonic body quickly shrank. At the same time, the demonic hammer on his demonic arm danced, and the silver-black demonic arm also struck towards the lightning. The demonic hammer also had pitch-black demonic runes and lightning on it, but they all collapsed under the khaki-colored lightning. Even the demonic hammer was destroyed. As for the silver-black demonic arm, although the lightning couldn't destroy it, it still created deep holes, making it look like it was riddled with holes. As Devil Emperor Qi's demonic body shrank, the demonic energy around Devil Emperor Qi formed layers of demonic seals to resist the lightning. Although the demonic seals were destroyed one after another, the demonic energy was also formed one after another. For a time, the lightning couldn't kill Devil Emperor Qi. While Devil Emperor Qi was holding on, tens of thousands of demons around him were also destroyed by the lightning and turned into dust. Seeing this, the demon Emperor Qi's heart was filled with sorrow. They targeted the ruins because they saw that the ruins didn't have a profound cultivation sect. However, he didn't expect that the Tai Bai sect had already set up a trap in the ruins. Although the Shindao sect's sect master Yun Che didn't have the strength to kill the Devil Emperor, the Tai Bai sect left the ruins a divine weapon that could kill the Devil Emperor. Although this divine weapon was far from being pushed to the limit, the destructive power of the divine weapon was enough to complete the Tai Bai sect's mission. Crack crack. All of a sudden, the lightning in the sky disappeared, and the copper coin that had exploded was left with a broken shape in the air. Devil Emperor Qi was stunned. How could he still hesitate? His demonic energy was already exhausted, and if the lightning fell a few more times, he would die. Devil Emperor Qi urged his body, and like a stray dog, he hurriedly fled towards the sky. The moment the thunderbolt stopped, another round of 5 Qi righteous thunders struck down from above Demon Emperor Qi's head. How could Devil Emperor Qi not know that this was the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's attack? He hurriedly stretched out his broken demonic arm and grabbed towards the sky. A layer of ripples blocked the 5 energy righteous lightning like a fishing net. However, before he saw the lightning rumble, a kind of fear immediately appeared in his heart, and he fled towards the sky without hesitation. However, just as he moved, And before the demonic shadow appeared, swoosh, a golden light flashed in the sky, and the soaring dragon scissors slashed across his demonic body. Crack! A clear cracking sound came from his heart, and his demonic core was cut in half by the soaring dragon scissors. Chapter 4177. Devil Emperor Qi cried out in disbelief. He looked down at his devil body that was rapidly collapsing. Tens of thousands of vortexes were forming inside his devil body, and where his devil core was, wisps of devil flames were gushing out like black blood. A famous expert of the devil realm had fallen in a foreign land just like that. The most terrifying thing was obviously not this. Just as Devil Emperor Qi's devil soul left his body, a strange whirlwind appeared in the air and sucked his devil soul into a bloody place. Devil Emperor Qi didn't even have a chance to resist. Devil Emperor Qi was killed by Xiaohua, and Emo Lianxi's figure appeared not far away. Green-robed Xiaohua also appeared in the air like a god. What's going on? Why didn't you continue with the spell? Green-robed Xiaohua looked at the copper coin in the air and asked Emo Lianxi in confusion. Emo Lianxi's face blushed, and she said in a low voice, "This humble one heard Yun Che sing that ballad in his early years. After so many years, this humble one doesn't remember it too clearly, hee." Green-robed Xiaohua laughed mischievously. He raised his hand and grabbed the broken copper coin in his hand. He said with a smile, "If you finish singing, then this copper coin would also be finished. It's fine now. Let this poor Taoist take this thing to buy buns." Taoist? Emo Lianxi was shocked. She hurriedly reached out and said, "This is something that Yun Che wore when he was young. Can Taoist give this thing to this humble one, as a memento?" "You want Yun Che's things? Easy, you can pick one yourself." Green-robed Xiaohua smiled and said as he took out a spatial ring from his chest and handed it to Emo Lianxi. When Emo Lianxi saw this, she almost fell from the air. Wasn't this spatial ring Yun Che wore on his finger? She didn't know when green-robed Xiaohua took it. Taking a deep breath, Emo Lianxi begged, "Taoist, this spatial ring is a symbol of the Shindao sect's sect master. This humble one thinks it's better to leave it to the Shindao sect." "Oh, that's true." Green-robed Xiaohua rubbed his chin, as if he were thinking of something. After a moment, he said, "Then let's return this spatial ring to the Shindao sect." Emo Lianxi was helpless. She could only bluntly say, "Taoist master, it's not just the spatial ring. The things inside must also be returned to the Shindao sect." "That won't do." The green-robed Xiaohua immediately shook his head like a rattledrum. "This spatial ring was picked up by I. How can you return it just like that?" Emo Lianxi was speechless. He thought for a moment and probed, "Spiritual master, the cultivators of the ruins have suffered great losses. In today's battle, many sect leaders have fallen. Among the three major sects, the leaders of the Misty School and the Shindao sect have lost their lives. The two sects are showing signs of decline. If you don't return the Shindao sect's things to the Shindao sect, the Shindao sect will no longer be one of the three major sections. It will definitely decline. Didn't Taoist Master Shao say it before? He is a guest elder of the Shindao sect. Do you want him to be a guest elder of a small sect? The Shindao sect is reduced to a second-rate sect because of a spatial ring? How is this possible? However, what you said makes some sense. After all, Xiaohua is a guest elder of the Shindao sect. I can't go too far." Green-robed Xiaohua scratched his head, thought for a moment, and handed the spatial ring to Emo Lianxi and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you to transfer this thing to the Shindao sect." "Okay." Emo Lianxi took the spatial ring. Just as she said okay, her face changed slightly. Because the spatial ring was very empty, there were no materials. Elixirs and so on were gone. Only jade slips and other things were left in it. Emo Lianxi opened her mouth, but looking at green-robed Xiaohua, she knew that no matter what she said, he wouldn't admit it. Emo Lianxi thought for a moment and had no choice but to put away the spatial ring. Looking at the many primordial spirits in the distance who were still urging their magic power to suppress the multicolored light, she asked in a low voice, "Taoist Master Shao, is it still not enough?" "Damn it, of course it's not enough." Green-robed Xiaohua cursed and said, "Who knew that refining the 5 elements wishful heaven staff would be so difficult? This is just the blood refining stage, and so much magic power is spent. How can I refine it in the future?" 5 elements wishful heaven staff. Emo Lianxi was dumbfounded. Of course, she had heard of the fame of the ancient vicious weapon. She didn't think that the human race of the cultivation world could refine such a divine object. Wasn't this wishful thinking? Unfortunately, how could Emo Lianxi dare to say half a word at this time? He still had to fill up the things in Yunche's spatial ring, and he also had to think about how to explain this to the Shundao sect elders. He didn't want to cause any more trouble. However, there was no need for him to say anything. Suddenly, a thunderous sound came from the mountain range in the distance. Several demonic pillars rose out of thin air, and the figure of a demon emperor strangely appeared in the middle of the demonic pillars, causing Emo Lianxi to tremble in fear. Hee. Green-robed Xiaohua smiled, waving the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and said, "Sect Master Emo, are you interested in watching a show with me?" "Of course." Emo Lianxi nodded without hesitation. She really wanted to see how magical Xiaohua's illusion array was, and how this illusion array killed the other 2 demon emperors. "Let's go!" Green-robed Xiaohua called out, and the Kunlun mirror in his hand emitted a multicolored brilliance. The brilliance fell in the air and turned into pitch-black demonic energy. As the demonic energy rolled, a huge demonic space appeared. Moreover, within the space, Xiaohua, green-robed Xiaohua, and the others rushed towards the demonic pillars in the middle of the mountain range at lightning speed. Emo Lianxi's divine sense swept over Xiaohua and the others. It was no different from what he saw before. But when he turned his head to look at the previous location, Xiaohua and the others were still in the middle of the multicolored light. Sigh. Emo Lianxi shook her head slightly and urged her figure to follow behind green-robed Xiaohua. At this time, she didn't know whether this green-robed Xiaohua was an illusion or not. When Emo Lianxi flew to the mountain range, she saw that the surrounding tens of thousands of miles of the mountain range had turned into a mess. The mountain range, the boulders, the forest, and everything else had been affected by the battle between the demonic spirit and the bone-tempering Xiaohua. Nothing existed. At the demonic pillars, hundreds of millions of demonic soldiers and generals had appeared. Under the leadership of Demon Emperor Qi, they were desperately fighting against Xiaohua and the other illusions. Xiaohua and the other illusions were like gods that could casually kill countless demonic soldiers. And in the middle of these demonic soldiers and generals, demonic spirit Xiaohua and bone-tempering Xiaohua were struggling to deal with the attacks of the demonic spirit and Demon Emperor Qi in just a moment. Bone-tempering Xiaohua was the first to be defeated, and he escaped from the heavenly white bone. Before bone-tempering Xiaohua could take out the blood bone from the heavenly white bone, Demon Emperor Qi let out a wild laugh. The demonic spirit of the demonic spirit came out of Demon Emperor Qi's demonic body and turned into a demonic pillar that reached the sky. It rushed towards the demonic array space formed by the Kunlun mirror. Demon Emperor Qi even crossed the space and fell into the white bone. When Demon Emperor Qi fell into the white bone immediately flashed with lightning again. The 3 heads crazily spewed out multicolored light, and the 6 arms pierced towards bone-tempering Xiaohua. Bone-tempering Xiaohua had obviously overdrawn his spiritual power. While he tried his best to block the attack of the arms, he couldn't block the multicolored light. The multicolored light pierced through his head and he fell to the ground. After that, Devil Emperor Qi even flapped his wings and killed Devil Spirit Xiaohua swiftly like a bolt of lightning before seizing Devil Saber Slaughter from him. Ha! Demon Emperor Qi and Demon Emperor Qi both laughed. One controlled the white bone, the other waved the demonic saber, and they attacked Xiaohua and the other clones. In the illusion, Xiaohua and the others were naturally not the opponents of the 3 great demon emperors. After stubbornly resisting for an hour, they were finally killed by the 3 great demon emperors. Demon Emperor Qi and Demon Emperor Qi still wanted to continue chasing the cultivators of the ruins. However, under Demon Emperor Qi's persuasion, they returned to the demonic array to rest first. After they readied themselves, they would return to the ruins. The three demon emperors moved their figures and proudly led the demonic soldiers and generals back to the demonic array formed by the spatial light pillar. Demon Emperor Qi was leading the way. Mo Lianxi, who was hiding in the illusion array, was ecstatic. Just as Mo Lianxi was ecstatic, she saw that the demonic spirit of the demonic array, which hadn't completely entered the Kunlun mirror, suddenly shouted, "Not good. This isn't this emperor's." Moreover, as the demonic spirit of the demonic array roared, waves of fluctuations were generated from the demonic Qi pillar that he turned into, destroying the illusion array nearby. When the demonic soldiers and generals disappeared, Demon Emperor Qi's figure also disappeared. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, the demonic saber murder flashed and cut the demonic pillar in half. Demonic spirit Xiao Hua had already stretched out his demonic body from the Kunlun mirror. The demonic Qi of the blood-dripping paradise was generated, and like a torrential river, it swallowed the remaining demonic Qi of the demonic array's demonic spirit. Ao Ao. The demonic spirit of the demonic array howled crazily, trying to escape from the Kunlun mirror. However, demonic spirit Xiao Hua was also a demonic spirit that had lived for God knows how many years. He was very familiar with the demonic array's demonic spirit's weakness. After a few rounds of swallowing, he firmly controlled the demonic spirit and dragged him into the Kunlun mirror. At the same time, a powerful suction force was generated from the Kunlun mirror, firmly enveloping Demon Emperor Qi and Demon Emperor Qi at the same time. Tens of thousands of thunderbolts were generated from Xiao Hua's body and landed on the Kunlun mirror. Demon Emperor Qi seemed a little surprised. Seeing the demonic soldiers and generals around him disappear, and Demon Emperor Qi also turned into nothingness, he didn't dare to believe that everything he killed was an illusion. In particular, when the white bones around him also turned into nothingness, he understood that his formless demonic body was hurriedly fleeing for his life. As for Demon Emperor Qi, he already had a warning in his heart. When the demonic saber in his hand disappeared, he didn't stop at all. The wings on his back spread out, and the demonic horn on his forehead produced a space-tearing force. Demon Emperor Qi's figure rushed into the space crack at an extremely fast speed, and before Demon Emperor Qi could say anything, he disappeared from the illusion. Damn it! Green-robed Xiao Hua angrily cursed. The Kunlun mirror emitted a dazzling light that swept across Demon Emperor Qi's demonic body. With a sizzling sound, more than half of Demon Emperor Qi's demonic body was destroyed. The light beam rushed into the space crack, and a miserable scream came from the distance. Chapter 4178. Just as green-robed Xiao Hua used the Kunlun mirror to injure Demon Emperor Qi, Mo Lianxi clearly saw that there was still a small half of Demon Emperor Qi's body falling into the void. He hurriedly used his spiritual power and spells, but he only managed to kill half of Demon Emperor Qi in the end. He still couldn't stop Demon Emperor Qi. He hurriedly reminded green-robed Xiao Hua, "Demon Emperor Qi has escaped." He can't escape." The green-robed Xiao Hua rubbed his hands, and streaks of crystal light fell into the void. Rumble! The sound of thunder resounded, and sure enough, the miserable shrieks of the Demon Emperor could be faintly heard from the void. After the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, the screams and the thunder slowly stopped. The corner of green-robed Xiao Hua's mouth rose slightly. The light of the Kunlun mirror in his hand faded, revealing a mirror covered with demonic patterns. Of course, these demonic patterns were rapidly decreasing. It seemed that Xiao Hua was devouring the demonic array's demonic spirit. Shua! Like tearing silk, Mo Lianxi's eyes flashed slightly. The whole world was still the same world, but some details seemed to have changed. Looking at the messy ground, bone-tempering Xiao Hua's extremely tired figure appeared. On his shoulder was a dream mirage butterfly flapping its wings. Mo Lianxi's gaze fell on the dream mirage butterfly. Suddenly, an indescribable small world appeared, and scenes of childhood memories covered him like light and shadow. Mo Lianxi turned pale with fright and hurriedly closed his eyes. However, to Mo Lianxi's surprise, all the illusions still appeared. Cough cough. Green-robed Xiaohua coughed. The Kunlun mirror's light pillar reappeared and took back the dream mirage butterfly. Only then did the illusions around Mo Lianxi slowly disappear. Mo Lianxi looked around in surprise, and his back suddenly broke out in cold sweat. Facing the dream mirage butterfly, the Tao foundation he had refined for tens of thousands of years was like paper. Rumble. At this moment, thunder and lightning appeared in the distant space. The original forms of the 5 elements that had appeared in the star field earlier had now fallen into the contact of the magnetism. The thunderbolt that descended from the sky not only shattered the previous imprisonment, but also fell into the original forms of the 5 elements. The original forms of the 5 elements actually produced a multicolored light that Xiaohua could not control, causing the 3 magnetism to shake. Not good. Xiaohua had already refined the primordial magnet and innate mother with his blood. He understood that this was the most crucial moment. If he couldn't refine the 5 elements into the primordial magnet, then not only would he fail, he and the others would also suffer from the backlash. This backlash wasn't just the backlash from refining tools, it was also the backlash from the celestial phenomenon. Fellow Taoists. Xiaohua's forehead was drenched in sweat, and he had no choice but to remind them once more. His hands once again surged with seals, and all of his magic power struck the origin magnetism. Seeing the entire space slowly stop shaking and the overflowing multicolored light begin to converge, Xiaohua's heart gradually calmed down. But at this moment, a voice filled with hatred came from beside Xiaohua's ear. Taoist Master Xiao, have you thought about the situation when you fall? Xiaohua turned pale with fright. Right now, he was using all his strength to refine the origin magnetic field. There was simply no way for him to be distracted. If he were to draw out even a trace of his magic power, the origin magnetic field would be ruined and he would suffer a backlash. Now that he heard the malicious voice, how could he not know that he had encountered a huge problem? Sure enough, in the void, a small part of the demon Emperor Qiong's demonic body appeared, but that voice did not belong to the demon Emperor Qiong. Heavenly demon? You actually have a trace of a clone? You don't return to your own sky of freedom, but still want to borrow the demon Emperor Qiong's demonic body? You really are deliberately scheming. Xiaohua suddenly woke up, and in the distance, the green-robed Xiaohua was similarly shocked. The Kunlun mirror in his hand had already been activated once more. Whatever this king wants to kill, no matter if it is a human, immortal, or Buddha, this king has never failed. The heavenly demon controlled the demon Emperor Qiong's demonic body and threw it into Xiaohua's body. Sensing Xiaohua's abundant essence, the heavenly demon's mouth was filled with an indescribable pride. You are but a mere human cultivator. Even if you have one fortuitous encounter after another, you will absolutely not be able to escape from this king's palm. Sensing that his body was gradually losing control of itself, Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed, and he slightly withdrew the seals in his hands. Boom! A strand of 5 elements multicolored light penetrated the origin magnetic field and landed on Xiaohua's head. Oh? What are you doing? The heavenly demon greedily absorbed Xiaohua's essence and quickly took control of Xiaohua's body. He asked with some surprise, could it be that you think self-destruction can free you? Don't even dream about it. Fellow Taoist. The green-robed Xiaohua and the bone-honed Xiaohua both hurriedly came to his rescue, and the Kunlun mirror's light pillar also covered Xiaohua. Although Mo Lianxi at the side didn't know what was going on, how could he not know that the situation had changed? However, at this critical moment, a powerful fluctuation appeared on Xiaohua's head. At the location of the 5 elements multicolored light, a thumb-sized emerald green light spot suddenly appeared. This light spot was extremely bright, and it shone so brightly that Mo Lianxi hurriedly closed his eyes. A strange thought immediately emerged from the bottom of his heart. Wood origin. Xiaohua can actually capture the wood origin. Damn it, all the benefits have been taken by him. We cultivators of the ruins can't even get a mouthful of soup. It was exactly as Mo Lianxi thought. As soon as the emerald green wood origin fell, emerald green flames instantly appeared around Xiaohua's body, igniting every part of his body. Even the bodies of dragon bloodline Xiaohua and the bone-honed Xiaohua's clones also lit up with this emerald green flame. The heavenly demon and the demon emperor howled at the same time in Xiaohua's body. Damn it, damn it. What is this? The heavenly demon's remnant body and the demon emperor's body had never been tempered by the origin power, so of course they didn't know what the origin power was. However, what they knew was that their devil bodies couldn't withstand the burning of the origin power. At this moment, Xiaohua's body was completely enveloped by the origin power. Even if they wanted to escape, they couldn't. Walking into a trap, lifting a rock and smashing it on their own feet, this was probably the best way to describe their current situation. In just the blink of an eye, the two Devil Realm experts were completely annihilated. As for Xiaohua, he had borrowed the power of the origin source to easily refine the origin magnet. After putting the origin power into the space, Xiaohua's many clones all sat cross-legged in the air, guiding the origin power of wood to temper their bodies. Lianxi looked at Xiaohua with some envy. He knew that even if he obtained the origin power of wood, he would absolutely not dare to use it like this. Although Xiaohua was lucky, he also had the confidence to be lucky. Lianxi didn't dare to disturb Xiaohua and the others' meditation. He flew into the sky and released his divine sense. At this moment, although two of the three demon emperors surrounding the ruins had been killed and the remaining one had escaped, the Taoist devil war wasn't over. The devil race was still fighting fiercely with the human race everywhere. Even in the southwest border, there were still many demon monarchs leading demon soldiers and demon generals fighting against the conference hall's troops. It was just that all the human race and devil race viewed Xiaohua's location as a forbidden area, and no one dared to approach. Sigh. Lianxi sighed. Looking at the dark clouds covering the demonic array, he knew that the task of the war was still very difficult. However, after sighing, he smiled. Although it was difficult to break this demonic array, as long as Xiaohua was willing, the ruins would be able to see the light of day sooner or later. Ooh! Just as Lianxi sighed, the Kunlun mirror beside the green-robed Xiaohua produced a whistling sound. Light flashed inside, and the devil spirit Xiaohua flew out. At this moment, the devil spirit Xiaohua seemed to be much more spirited. He nodded at the green-robed Xiaohua, and then his figure teleported into the sky. The following scene completely stunned Lianxi. The devil spirit Xiaohua raised his head, opened his mouth, and spat out a stream of devil qi that crashed into the devil pillar in the demonic array. Then, the devil pillar crazily rolled and quickly returned to the demonic array. The devil race hiding inside the devil pillar were all exposed. Just as these devil race were baffled, the devil pillar fell into the demonic array, and then the entire demonic array began to boil. It turned into a torrent of devil qi and devil flame that followed the devil spirit Xiaohua's devil qi into his stomach. The hundreds of millions of devil race were slowly exposed in the star field. With the disappearance of the demonic array, the brilliance of the three suns began to sprinkle over the entire earth. Looking at this crazy scene, Lianxi couldn't recover for a long time. She thought that Xiaohua would have to spend a lot of energy to break the demonic array, but she didn't expect that the devil spirit Xiaohua who swallowed the demonic array's devil spirit could break the entire demonic array in a snap of his fingers. However, the demonic array disappeared, but the devil race didn't panic too much. All the devil race reorganized their troops and attacked the ruins again. As for the human race in the ruins, seeing the disappearance of the demonic array, each and every one of them saw the hope of survival. Under the command of the conference hall, all the sects no longer held back and sent out their disciples to fight the devil race in the sky, in the forest, or by the river. In the sky, the devil spirit Xiaohua spent a dozen days absorbing the demonic array. When the last wisp of devil qi fell into his stomach, Xiaohua and the others beside him also let out a soft cry and withdrew their dharma forms. The originally khaki-colored bone-honing Xiaohua stopped the Big Dipper magical fist, and 10% of his body turned emerald green. Good. Xiaohua looked left and right, then bowed and said, "Fellow Taoists, you've worked hard. Fellow Taoists, you've worked hard." The clones all smiled and returned the greeting. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across the ruins and said with a smile, Now, the human race in the ruins is evenly matched with the devil race, and even has the upper hand. That devil Emperor Qi has also been seriously injured by us and is no longer a threat. We can kill some devil monarchs and lend the ruins a hand. How about it? Very good. The clones responded and were about to move. At this time, a layer of strange fluctuations suddenly appeared in the sky. That fluctuation blew over like a storm, and it even gave birth to a bit of fluorescent brilliance in the air. Moreover, where the fluctuation passed, all the heaven-earth origin Qi was destroyed, and all the devil Qi was also pierced through. Of course, this fluctuation was like the wind. After it swept over, the heaven-earth origin Qi also recovered extremely quickly, and the devil Qi also recovered to its original state. Chapter 4179. Great Desolate Star Storm? Xiaohua was shocked. Looking at the direction of the fluctuation and the remaining fireflies in the sky, he hurriedly shouted, How did it come so fast? Fellow Taoist. Just as Xiaohua's voice landed, Soul Cultivator Xiaohua immediately exclaimed in ecstasy, The great snow mountain's divine sense mark is clear again. It must be that after this demonic array is destroyed, the great desolate star storm will also break through the barrier between the two realms. I can sense the great snow mountain. Great. Xiaohua was overjoyed and hurriedly ordered, Fellow Taoists, quickly return to your positions. We will activate the south diverging north technique right now. How could bone-tempering Xiaohua and the others dare to stay for a moment longer? They all entered Xiaohua's body. Not far away, Mo Lianxi was very puzzled and hurriedly urged his figure to come over and ask. When Soul Cultivator Xiaohua entered Xiaohua's body, he still exhorted, Fellow Taoist, don't rashly activate your soul technique. Our cultivation is not enough. When crossing the barrier between the two realms, it's best to use the teleportation array. I know. Xiaohua nodded. Seeing Mo Lianxi flying over, he waved his hand and said, Sect Master Mo, the great desolate star storm has already arrived. You all should quickly make a plan. The demon race is also afraid of this great desolate star storm and will definitely withdraw their troops early. I promised your ancestors matter, I will definitely accomplish it. You should also help I a little. I have a disciple. At this point, Xiaohua's heart trembled. He hurriedly shut his mouth and shouted, You don't need to care about I's matter. Quickly inform the discussion hall about the great desolate star storm. Mo Lianxi was somewhat puzzled as to why Xiaohua didn't say anything. However, when he heard about the great desolate star storm, his heart was also in chaos. He cupped his hands and said, All right, I will inform the discussion hall. Taoist, please return to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range to arrange your disciple. Finished speaking, Mo Lianxi hurriedly left. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over and teleported towards the teleportation array. Naturally, there was a fierce battle between the human race and the devil race near the transmission array, but Xiaohua's arrival did not attract the attention of the human race or the devil race. Xiaohua's figure paused in the air for a moment, his eyes looking around, looking at the place where the battle once took place. He transmitted a few words to Wu Tian, telling him to prepare to come out and look for an opportunity to leave. He then descended into the ground, closed his eyes and meditated for a moment, then entered the transmission array. After that, Xiaohua used the going south, going north technique to confirm the location marked by the Great Snow Mountain's divine sense and activated the transmission array and soul technique. Seeing a transmission channel appear in the void, Xiaohua stepped into it. The moment his figure disappeared, he did not forget to turn his head to look at ruins. He knew that once he went in, he would not be able to see ruins again in this life, and he would not be able to see Yu Mingxin, who had some feelings for him. What Xiaohua didn't expect was that when his figure entered the transfer channel slowly closed, and the transfer array under the ground slowly stopped operating. Another demon flapped his wings and flew over. Wasn't he the demon General Sakura that Xiaohua had seen in the demon array before? At this time, Sakura was in a rather sorry state. There were many lacerations on his demon wings. Not only were devil flames seeping out of these wounds, but his white demon bones were also exposed. What was special was that some devil chi was uncontrollably emitting from the wounds. He looked like a sparrow with its tail on fire. When Sakura flew close to the teleportation array, the demon horn on his forehead suddenly produced a layer of faint devil halo. Sakura's face immediately became nervous. However, when he scanned the surroundings with his devil sense, he didn't find anything abnormal. His nervousness was replaced by ecstasy. Immediately after, the devil chi around Sakura's body surged. The halo on his demon horn became brighter and brighter. His figure flew towards the teleportation array that Xiaohua was teleported to. When he landed in the sky above the teleportation array, a wave of energy shot out from his demon horn. It was precisely aimed at the underground space where the teleportation array was about to close. However, this wave of energy was weak when it landed in the void. It couldn't open the restriction of the teleportation array. Sakura turned his head to look. It seemed that there were pursuers behind him. He clenched his teeth and took out a triangular bronze magic weapon from his demon palm. This magic weapon had a faint wave of energy. Moreover, the wave of energy was already disorderly. Obviously, the array inside was already on the verge of collapse. Sakura threw this magic weapon into the wave of energy from his demon horn. That magic weapon was hidden in the void by him using a secret technique from the demon realm. Soon after, he flew another 100 feet forward and fell on the ground. His entire body was twitching slightly on the ground. He looked like he was already exhausted. "Senior brothers, that demon general is over there." Sakura had just set up an ambush when a slightly weak divine sense swept over from afar. Then, Yumingshin's voice came through while gnashing his teeth. "She's already seriously injured and can't hold on any longer. Let's join hands and kill her to avenge senior brother Changming and the others." After Yumingshin, who was holding a long whip and wearing a silk handkerchief on her face, appeared, Yang Haoya, who was holding a long sword, also flew out. After seeing Sakura's appearance, he immediately pulled away from Yumingshin and flew towards Sakura in a fan shape. He even shouted, "That's right. This guy is too cunning." He actually set up an ambush next to the teleportation array and killed senior brother Changming. "If I don't avenge senior brother Changming today, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace in the future. Be careful." After flying for a while, Wan Wuxin also flew over with a long saber in his hand and warned, "I'm afraid there's an ambush here." "Humph, the heaven-earth origin chi here is not only abundant but also chaotic. There's no trace of devil chi." Yang Haoya coldly snorted, "If you say there's an ambush by my Dao disciples, I can still believe it." "That's right, little sister also doesn't believe it." Yumingshin raised her head and looked at the sky. The devil chi there had already dissipated and the rumbling sound was incessant. She said, "The devil race's devil array has already been destroyed by Senior Xiao and the rest. Sooner or later, the devil race will be driven out of the ruins by our human race. How can they still set up an ambush here?" Wan Wuxin looked at the two men and women who were full of confidence and smiled bitterly in his heart. He opened his mouth and wanted to remind them, but he still stopped. He released his divine sense to search carefully. After confirming that there wasn't an ambush, the three of them were already close to Sakura. Wan Wuxin shouted again, "Senior brother Yang, junior sister Mingxin, we don't need to get too close to this fiend. We can just take out our magic artifacts here and kill him." "That's right." Yu Mingxin nodded with hatred. She circulated the magic power in her body and that long whip transformed into a huge python that pounced towards Sakura's back. Yang Haoya didn't dare to be negligent. He also raised his long sword and the sword chi was like a rainbow. It tore through the air and fell towards Sakura's head. Wan Wuxin waved his long sword and a crimson-red sword shadow came out from his body. It let out a rumbling sound and fell towards Sakura's back like a huge millstone. Just as the three of them took out their magic artifacts, Sakura's body that was lying down didn't change. His head that was facing away from everyone suddenly turned around strangely and his face revealed a mocking and ridiculing expression. "Not good." Wan Wuxin was alarmed. He circulated the magic power in his body and wanted to retreat quickly. Unfortunately, he was still too late. Just below the three of them, that magic artifact that was hidden in the void revealed itself. The fluctuations on the magic artifact were abnormally chaotic. A surge of energy gushed out from the magic artifact and enveloped the surrounding few miles. Although Yu Mingxin, Yang Haoya, and Wan Wuxin were already alerted and each of them circulated their magic power to protect themselves, that magic artifact that Sakura had obtained from an unknown place had an extremely strong explosive power. That violent force closed in and knocked the three of them into the sky. It even tore apart the magic that the three of them had used to defend themselves. Even their corporeal bodies were damaged greatly. And when the magic artifact's force fell on the ground, the entire earth was trembling. On the ground, there were originally withered branches, gravel, and hills. Normally, no one would come here. After the impact force passed, the wilderness was cleared out and an open space was formed. What was special was that under the open space, a layer of mysterious restriction was torn apart. Even more chaotic and frightening chi of heaven and earth surged out from the ground. The heavy rumbling sound was also exposed. Although the naked eye couldn't see through the ground, Sakura's devil sense could see clearly. Wasn't that a transmission array that was about to stop? Joy appeared on Sakura's face. His devil body that was lying on the ground suddenly flapped his wings and his entire body suddenly rushed into the transmission array. However, with a flash of brilliance in the transmission array, his body was actually about to disappear. Without waiting for Sakura's body to disappear, Yu Mingxin, Yang Haoya, and Wan Wuxin flew to the sky above the transmission array at the same time. The three of them were wearing ragged clothes and there were bloodstains all over their bodies. It was obvious that they were severely injured. However, when the three of them scanned with their divine senses, they were all shocked. Wan Wuxin cried out, "This? Why is there a transmission array here? This devil general is escaping. Chase!" Yu Mingxin shouted without hesitation. Her body swayed and she executed an escape technique to pounce into the transmission array. "Junior sister Mingxin." Yang Haoya hurriedly cried out, "This transmission array appeared for no reason. Could it be the devil general's scheme?" "It can't be." Wan Wuxin had long understood what was going on. "This is our Taoist transmission array. Although I don't know why this devil general is able to activate it and I don't know why he doesn't use vital stones, since it's our ruins transmission array, it must be used by the human race. This demon must have been a blind cat running into a dead mouse to find this place. If he wants to use this transmission array to escape, how can we let him do as he wishes?" Wan Wuxin's thoughts were meticulous. Yu Mingxin and Yang Haoya had always believed in him. Although Yang Haoya was still somewhat hesitant, Yu Mingxin was eager for revenge. When she heard Wan Wuxin's agreement, she had already executed her escape technique and rushed into the transmission array. Since Yu Mingxin was moved, Yang Haoya and Wan Wuxin didn't dare to delay and rushed into the transmission array at the same time. At this moment, in that transmission array, Sakura's figure had just disappeared. When the three of them entered, the transmission array let out a final rumble. After sending the three of them into the transmission array, it immediately stopped. However, in just a moment, the brilliance gradually receded and the fluctuations of the heaven and earth vital energy also died down. The great battle in the ruins was still ongoing. Xiaohua and Sakura both teleported away. Yu Mingxin, Yang Haoya, and Wan Wuxin also chased after them. As for what was at the other end of the transmission array, Xiaohua knew in his heart. The other devil general and the three human cultivators didn't know. However, somewhere in the star domain, that nameless existence that was alarmed by the celestial skeletons stopped again. His body flickered with a strange brilliance and he stuck his head out from the starlight. However, in just a moment, this existence's eyes were filled with astonishment. He tore open the void and rushed in. The direction was actually where Xiaohua's transmission array disappeared. Chapter 4180. As for Xiaohua, he had already held the Grand Cosmos shifting token in his hand. The magic tool flickered with a faint halo that enveloped him. When the heavy spatial energy from the teleportation array landed on this halo, it only caused a slight ripple before disappearing again. At this moment, Xiaohua was activating the teleportation channel while using the going south way north technique. His expression was very cautious and he appeared to be very careful. After experiencing the error in the previous teleportation, Xiaohua already knew that even if his cultivation was at the level of a god, he could not be careless at any time. There were too many accidents in this world, and every unexpected accident would cause a huge change. And this change would happen most of the time. In other words, nothing could be done according to his wishes. Even if he had already built the teleportation channel and used the going south way north technique to discover the Great Snow Mountain's divine sense mark, he still did not have any confidence that he could teleport to the sky above the Great Snow Mountain. In fact, the current Xiaohua did not dare to imagine that he could reach the Great Snow Mountain. He only hoped that he could return to the hidden immortal continent, Western Paradise, or any place in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, as long as it was related to the three continents. Xiaohua even hoped that he could return to the Dawn Rain continent. That would be even more wonderful. However, these were all extravagant hopes. Xiaohua only hoped that the divine sense mark in the distance would be stable and not like it was now, like a candle in the wind. Fortunately, the teleportation channel had already been going for several hours. Although the divine sense mark was like a candle in the wind, it was still clear and there were no signs of it disappearing. This made Xiaohua rather gratified. However, this teleportation channel was really long. It felt even longer than when he went from the heavenly prison to the ruins. Xiaohua had never experienced such a long teleportation in his life. When the teleportation channel had already become a habit, Xiaohua suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. This was because the closer the distance, the clearer the divine sense mark should be. However, in Xiaohua's soul technique, the divine sense mark of the Great Snow Mountain was always like that, neither far nor near. Even after several hours of teleportation, it was still so far away, like a natural star, forever beautiful but forever untouchable. Just as Xiaohua's doubts appeared, the entire teleportation channel suddenly began to tremble. The space around Xiaohua released a trembling sound. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. The soul strands on his forehead surged out like a swarm of bees and landed on the transportation channel where the green seal characters were crazily surging. However, before the teleportation passageway could stabilize for a few breaths of time, a strange creaking sound was heard again. It was like a wooden boat being unable to bear the weight of the waves. After that, Xiaohua watched helplessly as the teleportation passageway seemed to be stretched by a large hand. Even his own body became flat and slender along with the passageway. "Ah!" Xiaohua tried to call out. His voice was very soft, but it was also extremely long. When Xiaohua's figure was distorted by the time, and every part of his body was fluctuating to different degrees, Xiaohua understood that he was once again in a turbulent flow of time. Of course, Xiaohua wasn't surprised at all by this situation. Furthermore, he wasn't alarmed but happy instead. The existence of the turbulent flow of time made it clear that he wanted to leave the ruins, leave the star field where the ruins were located. In other words, he wanted to leave the upper realm where the primordial spirit was cultivated and return to the hidden immortal continent where he was familiar with cultivating the nascent soul. However, when the four walls of the teleportation channel slowly became transparent, the green seal characters, runes, and even the fluctuations of magic power were slowly erased. Xiaohua himself was distorted to the point where he was almost unrecognizable. Perhaps he was just like a light shadow or a fluctuation. Only then did Xiaohua start to feel fear. At this moment, his magic power disappeared, his divine sense disappeared, his soul consciousness disappeared, and the soul technique that controlled the teleportation channel disappeared. Even his thoughts were slowly being pulled out. His eyes were pitch black. A deathly stillness that was even quieter than the heavenly prison began to pass through his body and rush into his mind. He couldn't control his own body, and he couldn't control his steps even more. A kind of ignorant terror pervaded Xiaohua's heart. He was like a mortal walking alone in a pitch-black mountain in the middle of a pitch-black night. Xiaohua was fearful of the unknown things in front of him. What is that? Just when Xiaohua was feeling helpless, in the boundless darkness, he saw a hazy brilliance. A ribbon of light appeared in Xiaohua's vision. This light knot was very strange. It was like a complete ribbon of light that was cut off. Moreover, it twisted at the place where it was cut off and reconnected again. Above this time knot, rays of light that were as bright as swimming fish flickered and surged. These rays of light didn't need to leave one side of the light knot and could easily flow to the other side. Xiaohua was a little dumbstruck by this sight. Seeing the light knot, Xiaohua's figure suddenly sped up. His distorted figure was even more like a light shadow being cut apart, turning into pieces. Could it be that I'm still in the teleportation channel? Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization. But in this space-time turbulence, I can no longer see the teleportation channel? Just when Xiaohua came to a realization, he suddenly lowered his head again. He pulled his gaze away from the vision in the distance and looked at his own body. At this time, his body was no longer in shape. It had already turned into pieces of light shadows. These light shadows didn't follow any rules. Moreover, as the teleportation channel sped up, these light shadows were cut again, turning into smaller light shadows. This happened a few times. Before the light knot, Xiaohua's figure was already formed from small particles. Xiaohua suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He recalled the time when he followed Fairy Hong Xia into the ancestral shrine star in the millions of Meng Mountains. At that time, didn't he turn into a particle? Could it be that, by turning into a particle, I can fly faster? Could it be that in this star field, only the particle form is the best state to fly? Xiaohua's almost stagnant mind rumbled as he thought of his light escape. Allowing the body to be light is an escape. Light is formless and intangible. How can I allow the body to be light? Since light can shine in this star field, could it be that light is also in the form of particles? Xiaohua seemed to have touched the door of light escape. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to think about it because his figure was really like a lightning bolt, rushing towards the huge light knot. In just a moment, Xiaohua had already arrived in front of the light knot. On the contrary, when he got closer, Xiaohua could no longer see the shape of the light knot. He could only see that the light knot was vast and boundless. On one side of the light knot, there was a tide of light more majestic than the sea surging violently. Every time it moved, there would be endless fluctuations rushing out from the light spot. Xiaohua was very familiar with these fluctuations. They were the fluctuations of time in the heavenly prison. Although Xiaohua's ears couldn't hear any sound, the rumbling sound that reached the heavens and earth resounded in his heart. This sound could almost destroy all the sounds in the world. How is this possible? Xiaohua was dumbstruck as he looked at the miracle between heaven and earth. Even in the incomparably mysterious heavenly prison, all he could see was the brilliance produced by the intersection of several different time domains. This brilliance was already extremely rare and had already benefited him greatly. He had never thought that besides the heavenly prison, in this mysterious space, there would actually be time turbulence that surpassed the heavenly prison's time domain. And what made him especially puzzled was that the mark of the Great Snow Mountain's spiritual sense that he sensed was actually within the chaotic and incomprehensible time turbulence. Moreover, his spiritual sense mark was like a candle in the wind, not far nor near. Damn it, it must be the law of time. Xiaohua suddenly understood. Only the law of time can surpass the law of space and allow the spiritual sense mark of the Great Snow Mountain to maintain a constant distance. Could it be that the 3 continents are within the light knot? The 3 continents are actually so mysterious? As Xiaohua pondered, his figure once again rushed into the knot of light. As Xiaohua's speed increased, strange lights and shadows flashed before his eyes like lightning. Within these lights and shadows, there were endless illusions. There were continents, mountains, rivers, and battles of life and death. All kinds of strange and motley things appeared one after another in the lights and shadows. Boom! When Xiaohua crashed into the knot of light, countless voices once again rushed into his mind. Of course, these voices were merely like thunder, and after flashing past, they immediately became silent. Moreover, around Xiaohua's body that had already turned into particles, endless light duts drowned Xiaohua like a tide of light. It was as if only Xiaohua existed in this world at this time. Sensing that every particle on his body was emitting a kind of fluctuation, Xiaohua really wanted to cry but had no tears. He wanted to take this opportunity to comprehend some of the law of time, but the chaotic fluctuations of time made him want to comprehend until he died. Another few moments later, this tide of light produced a small vortex. This vortex gradually condensed into a flow of time as Xiaohua went deeper, wantonly flowing in the light knot. The three continents. Seeing an indistinct continent that seemed to be formed by countless illusions superimposed together in the flow of time, Xiaohua cried out in alarm, "It must be! Otherwise, how could this Xiao's divine sense mark appear on it?" However, in just a moment, Xiaohua wanted to cry but had no tears. His thoughts were as slow as a crawling snail. Damn it, with such a chaotic flow of time, even if the Xiao returned to the Great Snow Mountain, then who knows when in the hidden immortal continent. Maybe 1,000,000 years ago, maybe 1,000,000 years later, what's the point of this Xiao going back to the hidden immortal continent like this? Unfortunately, even if Xiaohua didn't want to go back, his body that had almost turned into a light shadow still quickly crashed into the continent. Just as he approached one of the illusions on the continent, suddenly his body of 13,200 particles slightly shook, and the transmission array that had disappeared in the flow of time suddenly reappeared. As if it had bumped into something, it suddenly became unstable. Moreover, just as his body was trembling, a vague image of light and shadow appeared amidst the myriad of light and shadow. Chapter 4181. In this light, a tall and thin figure appeared. At this moment, this figure was lying helplessly, as if he had already fainted. On the left side of this figure, there was a black puppy and a yellow marten. What made Xiaohua especially shocked was that this tall and thin figure's right hand was tightly gripping a sword embryo that he was familiar with. Before Xiaohua could see clearly, the light and shadow shook again, and an indescribable ripple extended behind this figure. It was similar to the ripples of Xiaohua's transmission channel. If nothing unexpected happened, Xiaohua's transmission channel should have collided with the transmission channel that this figure was in, causing an abnormality to occur. The light and shadow shook once, and then the light and shadow disappeared, as if the entire light and shadow had fallen into the forward ripple. The brilliance of the grand cosmos shifting token in Xiaohua's hand shook again, smoothing out the somewhat collapsed transmission channel. As a result, the light and shadow of the transmission channel that Xiaohua was in also immediately disappeared into the torrent of time. Xiaohua was dumbstruck like a wooden chicken. His already slow mind could no longer keep up with what he had just seen. Although it was just a glance and he didn't see anything clearly, he could clearly feel that the figure was so familiar. The little dog and the little marten were also familiar, and there was also that sword embryo. However, he didn't have time to think too much. Another kind of fear arose in his heart. Soul cultivator Xiaohua's voice shouted in his physical body, "Not good. The divine sense mark has disappeared." Xiaohua was shocked. That's right, the divine sense mark that had been faintly discernible before had completely disappeared now. He couldn't sense it at all. It was as if the divine sense mark didn't exist at all. This situation was exactly the same as when Xiaohua had mistakenly entered the ruins. What should we do? Soul cultivator Xiaohua was somewhat at a loss. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed slightly. Looking at the endless illusory continent in front of him, he made a prompt decision and said, "Forget it. We're in the turbulent flow of time, so we're doomed. We can only survive by entering the three continents. Use the going south, going north, going south, going south, going north, going south." Alright. Hearing this, the soul cultivator Xiaohua hurriedly urged his soul warrior to activate. Thousands of green seal words flew out and disappeared into the flow of time. But as the green seal words disappeared, Xiaohua's portal continued to move closer to the continent. Mountain ranges and villas could be seen clearly in front of him. Suddenly, an indescribable barrier appeared in front of Xiaohua, preventing him from entering the portal. What's going on? Xiaohua was about to cry. How come the three continents don't recognize me? This Xiao has only been away for a few days. Calm down, fellow Taoist, Xiaohua said. We'll try again. Although he was a bit flustered, he forced himself to remain calm. Clenching his teeth, Xiaohua's soul tendrils flew out from his forehead and surged into the barrier in an attempt to break through. Unfortunately, he didn't know what this barrier was, but it was incomparably tough. No matter how hard Xiaohua tried, he couldn't break through it. Xiaohua could only watch as the continent flashed past his eyes like lightning. Motherfucker! I don't believe this. Xiaohua slapped his forehead and opened his illusion breaker Dharma eye. A round of silver-white pupils appeared, and before the silver-white beam of light could shoot out, the incomparably tough barriers suddenly disappeared. Xiaohua's figure flashed in the light and disappeared into the light and shadow of the continent. However, at this moment, the entire world where Xiaohua was located just happened to turn from one side of the boundless light knot to the other, and the light tide that was rushing up started to fall down like a waterfall on the other side. Just a moment later, another shadow appeared within the light tide. The unconscious figures of Sakura, Yu Mingxin, Yang Haoya, and Huan Wuxin appeared again. At this moment, the demonic horn on Sakura's forehead emitted an extremely dim fluctuation. This fluctuation protected the three of them. When the fluctuation dissipated, the three of them also crashed into one of the shadows on the continent. Seeing that he had crashed into a continent's light, Xiaohua's heart was suddenly in suspense. And at this time, his eyes swayed. The feeling of dizziness that he hadn't felt for a long time actually appeared. The entire continent was spinning in front of his eyes. Xiaohua was shocked. Because the divine sense mark of the snowy mountain had disappeared, his transfer array didn't have a specific location. If he spun like this, he was afraid that he would fall into the same place as the heavenly prison. At that time, he really wanted to cry but had no tears. Xiaohua hurriedly urged his soul technique. Fortunately, his soul tendrils were like his trembling heart. While protecting Xiaohua, they also extended towards the continent. But after a few breaths, the spinning stopped and all the light disappeared. The familiar transfer array appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes again. This transfer array was shaking rapidly, as if it was about to collapse. Moreover, in this passage, there were still some faint fragments of time flowing faintly. Good. Seeing the transfer array appear in front of his eyes, Xiaohua understood that he had already come out from the chaotic flow of time. Right now, he was about to land on the snowy mountain. Unfortunately, it was still too early for Xiaohua to be happy. Before he could even clap his hands, a loud rumbling sound resounded by Xiaohua's ears. A teleportation force that could flatten a mountain was similarly transmitted from the teleportation passageway. Not only was the teleportation passageway extremely deflated, even the brilliance of the Grand Universe teleportation token shattered with a "pu" sound. Not good. Xiaohua hurriedly slapped his head. Boom. A tricolored brilliance spurted out, transforming into a huge lotus that protected his body. At the same time, thousands of soul tendrils flew out from between his eyebrows and landed on the transfer array. One by one, thumb-sized green seal script appeared in the soul tendrils, trying to stabilize the transfer array. Creak, creak, creak. A series of dull sounds came from the left side of Xiaohua. It was as if a tattered wooden door was being blown by the wind and shattered. Puff, 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 puff. The transfer array behind Xiaohua was the same as before, continuously exploding. Xiaohua looked at the torn space and couldn't help but groan. Damn it, I have become enemies with the transfer array. Every time, it seems like I can't teleport to the place normally. Looks like this time, I don't know who will be trampled under my feet again. Can't we use another method to return to the snowy mountain? Although Xiaohua was resentful, he began to try his best to maintain the stability of the transfer array. However, the spatial transformation power in this torrent of time was so strong that it was far from what Xiaohua, a human cultivator, could control. He was like a young boy, using his hand to support a large rock while walking on a rope in the air. On one hand, he had to maintain balance, on the other, he had to use all his strength. Boom. Finally, after persisting for a while, Xiaohua was unable to maintain the transfer array. The green seal script that came in contact with the transfer array shattered one by one, and the soul tendrils connected to the seal script also broke inch by inch. The entire transfer array collapsed with a rumble. Xiaohua hurriedly slapped his forehead when he saw countless gray lightning bolts flashing in the air and glass shards slicing through the space around him. A fist-sized silver-white beam of light shot out of his delusion breaker eye and landed among the shards. Gotcha! Within the pillar of light, all the fragments were shattered, and then a vortex of several meters in size was formed. The entire space was torn apart by this vortex. Before Xiaohua could sweep out with his divine sense, another huge rumble resounded, and a huge pushing force appeared behind him. It was as if the void had kicked him in the butt, and he was forcefully kicked out. This force was so fierce and sudden that Xiaohua only had time to urge his true qi to protect his body. He didn't have time to use the lightning escape technique, and his entire body rushed into the sky. Xiaohua's body abruptly appeared in the sky above the continent. Apart from the ripples in the sky that slowly spread in all directions like water waves, no one knew where he came from, let alone that he had passed through the rare chaotic flow of time between heaven and earth. Perhaps the only thing that could be seen was the tricolored light shining on his body. He was also dragging a tail that looked like thick smoke behind him. He was whistling as he shot toward the mountain peak below at an extremely high speed. Strange whining noises could be heard in the sky as well. Immediately after, with a long pew, Xiaohua's body crashed into a mountain peak like a meteor and disappeared without a trace. This sound was so loud that it scared some of the strange birds nearby, and none of them couldn't help but flap their wings and fly away. The cries of these birds and beasts sounded extremely chaotic under the clear sky. Even though the scorching sun in the sky shone brightly, it still couldn't cover up this mess. At this moment, the nameless continent welcomed an inexplicable, uninvited guest. Boom! In just a short moment, the entire mountain peak was shaking. Xiaohua's body flew out from the mountain rocks, and the light protecting his body flickered, blocking all the dust and gravel to the side. Damn it! Xiaohua flew while shouting cheerfully, "Snowy mountain, this daddy is back. Sun Hao, wait for this daddy to flatten your nose." However, when Xiaohua saw the mountain peak in front of him clearly, and then looked at the scene around him, he couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. He saw that this was a mountain peak that was more than 10,000 feet tall, and it was covered with huge mountain rocks. Between the mountain rocks, there were some strange ancient trees. These ancient trees were also huge, and different from what Xiaohua usually saw. They were actually somewhat similar to the ancient trees in the Dragon Island's folded jade legacy realm. Moreover, on the left side of the mountain peak, the mountain range was like a horned dragon crouching on the ground. It stretched as far as the eye could see, and the entire earth was dyed green and yellow by these mountain ranges, brimming with a kind of vicissitudes and desolation. This is the snowy mountain? Xiaohua's eyes were filled with doubt, and he muttered to himself, Could it be that this Xiao's previous guess became a reality? Although this Xiao returned to the Western Paradise, but it wasn't the time when this Xiao left, but a long time ago or a long time later. Chapter 4182. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart moved, and he hurriedly looked at the sky. It was noon, and a white sun was hanging there. It was not the three suns of the ruins. Fortunately, seeing this scene, Xiaohua sighed in relief and thought to himself, no matter what, I've returned to the three continents. I've left the ruins and escaped from the great desolate star storm. Who cares what time it is in the three continents? As he thought about this, Xiaohua released his divine perception to explore the surroundings again. However, as he looked around, he frowned again. This was because the surroundings of this mountain were completely different from the Great Snow Mountain in his impression. Even the mountain itself was different from the Great Snow Mountain. Even within 10,000 li, there was no mountain similar to the Great Snow Mountain. Perhaps the world has changed and the Great Snow Mountain of the past is too far away and the Great Snow Mountain has not formed yet? Xiaohua comforted himself. Then, Xiaohua urged his body, preparing to teleport to the left to continue exploring. However, just as his body swayed, he stopped again. He looked at the surroundings in disbelief, but he saw that the heaven and earth origin qi was extremely rich, more abundant than any heavenly abode that Xiaohua had seen before. The heaven and earth origin qi in many places was about to condense into droplets. It can't be! Xiaohua's heart thumped, and he had a bad feeling. Although the Pure Land is the Buddhist sect's territory, and my Dao sect's cultivators rarely cultivate there, but it's impossible to have such rich heaven and earth origin qi in the vicinity of the Great Snow Mountain. Thinking of this, Xiaohua immediately slapped the top of his head, and his innate true qi turned into 5 qi's unifications and rushed into the air. Xiaohua's expression changed greatly. Because although there was noble qi in the heaven and earth origin qi, this noble qi was abnormally pure, and there was no Confucian aura at all. It did not even have the kind of mortal aura that Confucian cultivators needed to cultivate. Is this the ancient times? Xiaohua came to a realization and hurriedly looked around again. Sure enough, the mountain rocks on the mountain peak were huge, and the ancient trees were also huge. Even the grass on the mountain rocks looked similar to Xiaohua's height. It really looked like the great desolate world of the ruins. Xiaohua was completely dumbfounded, and he stood in the air, looking at the great desolate world around him. His lips moved, but in the end he did not say anything. At this moment, his heart felt empty, like a cloud floating in the sky without anything to rely on. Originally, he had the opportunity to stay in the ruins and even establish a sect in the ruins. However, he didn't stay. He found many excuses for himself in his heart. For example, the cultivators of the ruins cultivated the primordial spirit while he cultivated the nascent soul. It was not suitable for him to stay in the ruins. However, in reality, the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua cultivated the primordial spirit. Why couldn't Xiaohua cultivate it himself? Moreover, even if Xiaohua cultivates his nascent soul, his scattered soul can also cultivate his primordial spirit. For example, if the ruins were to be destroyed by the prehistoric star storm, Xiaohua would have no choice but to leave the ruins. However, in reality, since Wu Tian had the confidence to avoid the prehistoric star storm, why couldn't Xiaohua avoid it? Among all the cultivators in the ruins, Xiaohua was probably the only one who was truly qualified and had the strength to avoid the starburst, right? All excuses were just excuses. They couldn't hide Xiaohua's desire to return to the hidden immortal mainland. This desire was not only for the revival of the Dao sect, not only for XNXN, but also for the possibility of meeting Fairy Hong Xia again. However, time played a huge joke on Xiaohua. He did find the spiritual will mark he left behind in the Great Snow Mountain. Moreover, he did try his best to return to the ultimate land of bliss. However, this ultimate land of bliss was not his ultimate land of bliss. It was the ancient ultimate land of bliss. It belonged to the ancient ultimate land of bliss where Taoism, Buddhism, Confucianism and demons fought for supremacy. The people he was familiar with and the things he was familiar with had all become the smoke of the future. Whether it was Fairy Hong Xia or XNXN, they did not exist in this mainland. The indescribable depression was like a dark cloud that covered Xiaohua's empty heart. However, even if it was a dark cloud, Xiaohua's mind was also slowly floating and rising. At this moment, Xiaohua didn't want to think about anything and didn't want to do anything. It was as if he was extremely tired and wanted to rest. He allowed his mind to float up. The higher he flew, the farther he could see. The ancient desolate land turned into a sand table in Xiaohua's eyes. Although this sand table was boundless, the mountain peak was already like a pellet. Unfortunately, this scene was nothing to the current Xiaohua. He came from the earth, fire, wind and thunder realms and had already seen the ninth heaven. He didn't care about this simple bird's eye view. The land was far away, so the starry sky was naturally close. Above Xiaohua's mind, in the sky, the sun star and the moon star were hanging opposite each other. Countless bright stars were like eyes, blinking at Xiaohua. The truth of heaven and earth contained in the stars also fell into Xiaohua's mind in the blink of an eye. Seeing this starry sky, Xiao Hua of the heavenly Tao immediately trembled. Comprehension poured into Xiao Hua's mind like a flood, as if a blocked dam had suddenly been opened. Xiao Hua's mind gradually turned into a jade archive in the sky, allowing thousands of inexplicable fluctuations to fall into it. In the starry sky, all the stars gave birth to halos, and billions of starlight from the other realms fell into jade archive Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua's mind was filled with a kind of perfection similar to a reunion after a long separation. Whether it was Xiao Hua's Tao cultivation or Confucian cultivation, all of his divine abilities grew rapidly in this perfection. Perhaps it was an instant, perhaps it was millions of years. Even Xiao Hua didn't know when it flew out from the space. That big hand seemed to want to grab the stars in the sky and directly grab at the starry sky. All of a sudden, Jade Archive Xiao Hua's body trembled. All of his astral energy disappeared, and all of his comprehension was annihilated. Even the image of Jade Archive Xiao Hua disappeared, leaving only Xiao Hua's mind staring at the starry sky in a daze. An uncontrollable ecstasy ignited the hope in his heart. He muttered to himself, "No. This is not the ultimate paradise. The ultimate paradise's starry sky is not like this. The starry sky. I seem to have seen it before. Moreover, this starry sky is engraved with the first stroke of my comprehension of the heavenly Tao. This is perhaps the place I have been bitterly searching for." Xiao Hua's mind just had some comprehension, but suddenly a kind of extreme terror emerged from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but look at a certain place in the starry sky. Over there, a strange distortion was slowly taking shape. Not good. Xiao Hua's mind was startled, and he immediately fell from the sky into his body. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked at the starry sky that was already gone, and he secretly shouted, "Could it be, there is an enemy that can kill this Xiao? Did that enemy just happen to pass by, or did he follow me here? Could it be a demon lord from the demon realm?" Thinking of this, Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent, and he hurriedly invited the green-robed Xiao Hua out of the space. Without waiting for the green-robed Xiao Hua to see the situation clearly, he immediately asked, "Green-robed fellow Taoist, I want to ask you, can other people use the teleportation array that you and I set up in the ruins?" The green-robed Xiao Hua was startled, and then he sensed the panic and doubt in Xiao Hua's heart, and he hurriedly replied, "Let me tell you, fellow Taoist, that teleportation array is activated by a soul technique, and it can only be used when combined with the way south opposite north technique, and it doesn't require primordial stones. Therefore, other than fellow Taoist, other people can't use it. Moreover, fellow Taoist, don't forget that there is no teleportation array here that is connected to that teleportation array, so how can other people use it?" "If that's the case, I can be at ease." Xiao Hua nodded. "In that case, I's warning sign is probably not an enemy chasing after us, but the power of heaven and earth similar to the great desolate star storm." "It should be," the green-robed Xiao Hua said with a smile. "If this is the great desolate star and not the ancient ultimate paradise, then it means that we are still in the upper realm. With our origins, how can we still have enemies in the upper realm? If the demon venerable chases after us, it's also possible." Xiao Hua still didn't feel at ease and replied, "Big brother, don't be afraid." The devil spirit Xiao Hua said, "The demon venerable won't come out unless there is a great temptation. Everything about Big Brother hasn't been exposed, so the demon venerable won't have any ideas about Big Brother. Moreover, Little Brother is currently devouring the devil spirit of the demon array. Previously, when Big Brother was comprehending, Little Brother had already devoured more than half of it. After devouring for another 100 years, Little Brother will also be able to surpass the Demon Emperor, and at that time, maybe I can also become a Demon Venerable. 100 years. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. It would be good if it was 100 years. I's warning sign is too powerful, and all the previous warnings can't be compared to it. Even the heavenly prison can't be compared to it. Therefore, I'm afraid I can't wait 100 years. Then what should we do? The devil spirit Xiao Hua was somewhat dumbfounded. I is very familiar with the starry sky of this place, and it's different from the Western paradise. Perhaps I also stayed here before I was stranded in the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua said in a low voice. It's also because I cultivated here that this place has the divine sense mark that I left behind. So, the divine sense mark that I sensed in the ruins was here, and not the great snow mountain. Even I suspect that the divine sense mark that I sensed in the heavenly prison was also here. Yes, it must be so. The soul cultivator Xiaohua also said, otherwise, fellow Taoist wouldn't feel that the divine sense mark is somewhat unfamiliar. If that's the case, we can use the soul cultivation technique again to sense the divine sense mark of the Great Snow Mountain, and then teleport back from here. Xiaohua said with slight hesitation. As soon as he said that, the green-robed Xiaohua shook his head slightly again and said, fellow Taoist, I think you already have some awareness in your heart. Things may not be as simple as you say. From here, or from the ruins, it's not a simple teleportation array that can reach the Western Paradise. Alas. Xiaohua sighed and frowned. Fellow Taoist is right. The 3 continents are the lower realm, and the ruins are the upper realm. If there's no accident, this place should be an upper realm similar to the ruins. A simple teleportation array can't break the barrier between the 2 realms and teleport us back. The heavenly prison on the hidden immortal continent, if I guessed correctly, should be a spatial crack in the upper realm. Because this crack belongs to the upper realm, it's filled with time fragments, and no cultivator from the 3 continents can survive inside. Chapter 4183. Are you kidding me? Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. Looking at the stone giant that was more than 10 zhang tall, he thought to himself, this thing can actually cry? Or perhaps this isn't crying? But if this isn't crying, then what is it? However, looking at the stone giant's slightly trembling shoulders and trembling legs, it didn't seem to be fake. Xiaohua suddenly had a kind of realization, damn it, although this guy looks huge, could it be that he's still a child? Thinking that he actually bullied a child, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel ashamed. He raised his hand and picked up the stone giant's finger that fell on the stone platform, brought it in front of the stone giant, and lightly poked his arm. That finger wasn't much different from a stone, but there was some warm flow of fire inside. When the finger touched the stone giant's arm, it made a kaka sound, exactly like a stone hitting a stone. The stone giant stared blankly, revealing a somewhat red eye from inside his arm. At this moment, the panic in his eyes had already disappeared, replaced by grievance. Moreover, seeing his broken finger, the stone giant once again burst into tears, no different from an injured child. It really is a child. Xiaohua sighed. He waved his hand, and the broken finger once again poked the stone giant. Only then did the stone giant slightly listen to the crying. He curiously looked at Xiaohua and reached out to take it. Then, the stone giant saw that Xiaohua's expression was very kind and didn't have any evil intentions. Then he looked at the empty space under Xiaohua's feet. Although there were tears in his eyes, he still opened his mouth, pointed at Xiaohua's feet, and cried. Then, Xiaohua of course didn't understand what he was saying. He only shook his head and said, "Little guy, could it be that you don't know how to speak?" Then the stone giant still said the same 2 words. Presumably, these 2 words were all he could say. I guess he hasn't grown up yet, so he doesn't know how to speak. Xiaohua bitterly smiled, not to mention that he doesn't understand what I'm saying. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua asked again, "Little guy, where are you from? I'll bring you back, okay?" Then the stone giant didn't say anything else. Xiaohua was somewhat helpless. He thought for a moment and took out a few fire attribute top-grade primeval stones from his bosom. However, when he handed them over to the stone giant, Xiaohua was careful and changed these top-grade primeval stones into low-grade primeval stones. Sure enough, when the stone giant saw these yuan stones, he was extremely happy. He hurriedly extended his arm to ask Xiaohua for them. After he placed the yuan stones into his mouth and chewed them with crunching sounds, his large mouth opened and a smile appeared. However, this smile was reflected in the hot magma at the corner of his eyes, making it appear somewhat strange. Then After the stone giant finished eating the primordial stone, it seemed as if it still wanted more. It raised its hand and asked for more. It was completely like a child who had seen snacks in the secular world. Xiaohua smiled as he shook his head, placing several origin stones into his hand. At this moment, a faint sound came from the distant mountain valley. Although this sound was very soft, it traveled extremely far due to the mountain wind. Hearing this sound, the stone giant's face tensed up and he hurriedly looked up at the sky. At this moment, the sun had already set and the moon had yet to rise. The bright stars in the sky were already hanging in the night sky. Seeing that it was late, the stone giant couldn't help but panic. When he stood up, he hesitated for a moment. The fingers on his left hand were broken and he had just fallen down, so he seemed to have some lingering fear. Moreover, the night was shrouded and the entire mountain peak couldn't be seen clearly. The stone giant didn't dare to rashly go down. Then the stone giant anxiously opened its mouth and shouted towards the distance. Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry to help. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and raised his head to look at the sky. The stars in the sky were exactly the same as what he saw during the day. However, when he looked at them now, the feeling was completely different. During the day, it was mostly comprehension. During the night, it was mostly warmth and memories. It was a somewhat distant warmth and feelings. In addition, when he saw the childish actions of the stone giant, the weakness in Xiaohua's heart was immediately touched. It was as if the entire starry sky was his home. His unfamiliarity with this continent was instantly reduced by more than half. This place must have a close relationship with this Xiao. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and let the night wind blow his Taoist robe up. He wantonly enjoyed this kind of warmth. He let the gradually rising moonlight sprinkle on his body like water. It was just like that night when it sprinkled on the small house in the mountain village. Then a hurried call woke Xiaohua up. This voice was filled with anxiety and concern. Xiaohua, who was feeling emotional, immediately heard it. Although it was only 2 words, it was overflowing with affection. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He seemed to have understood something. Could it be, this stone giant's family can only say 2 words? Then, the small stone giant on the mountainside also replied. The stone giant at the foot of the mountain sped up its then, as if it was scolding. Then the small stone giant replied a few times, feeling wronged. It sat down again and stuck its head out to look at the darkness at the foot of the mountain. After a long time, a stone giant that was several times larger than the small stone giant carefully climbed from the darkness at the foot of the mountain to the stone wall illuminated by the moonlight. At this moment, the stone giant sped up again and quickly climbed up to the stone platform. Then the small stone giant had already made way for the stone giant. When it saw the stone giant climb up, it immediately pounced on it. Then it shouted. The stone giant originally raised its arm as if it wanted to hit the small stone giant. However, when it saw the small stone giant hugging it, it gently lowered its arm and patted the small stone giant's back as if to comfort it. Then after a while, the stone giant opened its mouth and asked. The small stone giant stuck its head out of the stone giant's chest and pointed at the high mountain cave. It explained again, then. In the distance, Xiaohua really didn't understand. Why did these 2 words contain so much information? Then the stone giant was obviously worried about its child and hid in the cave. When it saw the small stone giant's left hand missing a finger, its expression changed greatly and it interrupted the small stone giant's words. The small stone giant took out its broken finger and pointed at Xiaohua, who was not far away. It shouted, then. When the stone giant heard this, it turned pale with fright and hurriedly looked at Xiaohua. Then, without any hesitation, it put the small stone giant behind it and shouted, then. This time, the stone giant's voice was hurried and carried a hint of threat. Xiaohua immediately understood the meaning of these words. Seeing the fire in the stone giant's eyes, Xiaohua smiled faintly. His figure floated a few feet away and looked at the stone giant indifferently. Then the small stone giant behind the stone giant said a few words in a low voice. The stone giant also asked a few words. Then, it slowly relaxed its guard. It actually put its palms together and respectfully bowed to Xiao Hua to thank him. Seeing the stone giant's very standard Buddhist gesture, Xiao Hua was dumbfounded again. He couldn't help but ask, "Sir, on this continent, is there a Buddhist sect?" The stone giant obviously didn't understand what he was saying and still used 2 words to reply. "Sai, forget it." Xiao Hua was helpless and didn't answer. Then the small stone giant took out the fire element primordial stone and showed it to the stone giant. The stone giant nodded and looked at Xiao Hua. It pointed at the fire element primordial stone and then pointed at itself. Xiao Hua understood and took out a few more fire element primordial stones and gave them to the stone giant. However, the stone giant waved its hand, indicating that it didn't want them. Then, the stone giant put the small stone giant on its shoulder and beckoned to Xiao Hua. It then slowly descended from the stone platform to the foot of the mountain. Xiao Hua didn't think too much. He raised his eyes and looked at the familiar starry sky. His figure followed the stone giant as it descended. He understood that this continent was full of mysteries. This stone giant was probably the key to opening this mysterious door. The stone giant carefully climbed down from the mountain peak and looked at Xiao Hua, who was standing in the air behind it. Its big mouth cracked open as if it was smiling. Then it took a big step forward. Dong, 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 sounds could be heard from the ground. The stone giant took big strides and ran towards a place in the valley. The small stone giant was lying on the stone giant's back. It seemed that it was overly frightened and had fallen into a deep sleep. Its vertical eyes were tightly shut. The stone giant walked for more than 100 li. However, this distance was nothing in the huge mountain range. It didn't even cross 2 mountain ranges. However, after crossing a broken mountain foothill, the stone giant's figure clearly slowed down. Moreover, the sound of its footsteps also became a lot softer. Under the moonlight, the stone giant's eyes flashed with flames from time to time, as if it was on guard against something. Woo! Just when the stone giant turned its head and wanted to warn Xiao Hua, a strange sound suddenly came from a corner of the mountain foothill. Xiao Hua raised his head indifferently and saw a strange bird that was dozens of zhang in size. It looked like a huge rock rolling down from the night sky. When it got close to the stone giant, it spread its wings and a sharp claw that was several zhang in size appeared on its abdomen and grabbed towards the stone giant's back. The stone giant was obviously startled. Its one eye that was already on guard immediately opened. A reddish-yellow pillar of fire shot out from its one eye and attacked the strange bird. Pooh! That strange bird was also extremely powerful. Its sharp claw grabbed the air. Without any magic power fluctuation, it directly grabbed the pillar of fire into 2. Moreover, when the strange bird flapped its wings, pitch-black water droplets fell from its wings like rain. Papa! They fell on the stone giant and the small stone giant. Zzz, zzz, zzz. The pitch-black water droplets fell on the 2 stone giants' bodies and immediately emitted a corrosive sound. It was like cold water falling on hot oil. Chapter 4184. Then the little stone giant, who was originally sleeping soundly, immediately woke up from the pain and couldn't help but scream loudly. Then the stone giant hurriedly shouted in a low voice. Then he suddenly gave up fighting with the strange birds and fled in another direction. On his body and the little stone giant's body, the water droplets splashed by the strange birds corroded thumb-sized deep holes. Sure enough, as soon as the stone giant took off, a dozen strange cries came from the foothills. Caw-caw! A flock of strange birds flew out. The largest of these birds were 1,000 feet long, while the smallest was 100 feet long. They flapped their wings and pounced on the stone giant. Even a few strange birds noticed Xiao Hua and turned their heads to pounce on him. The stone giant ran for more than 100 steps before he saw a huge rock in front of him. Without any hesitation, he threw the little stone giant into the huge rock and bent down to pick up a huge rock that was more than 100 feet in size. He shouted, "Hen!" He raised his arms and the huge rock let out a howl and charged toward the strange bird at the front. Puff! The strange bird was caught off guard. It spat out a pitch-black liquid from its mouth and hurriedly flapped its wings to dodge. Sizzle! The liquid in the strange bird's mouth was very corrosive. When it fell on the huge rock, it corroded a big hole in it. However, the huge rock came too fast for the strange bird to dodge. With a loud bang, the huge rock hit the strange bird's head. The strange bird's body was immediately sent flying by the huge rock and fell to the ground with a loud bang. It also let out a mournful cry. While the stone giant was delayed, the dozen strange birds had already flown close. Swish, swish! The dozen pairs of wings flapped and water droplets fell, covering the stone giant. Then the stone giant shouted and squatted down again. He picked up the huge rocks on the ground and threw them into the sky without looking back. Boom, boom! The huge rocks flew into the sky one after another. Because the stone giant's rocks were aimless, other than the first few that hit the strange birds, the rest were all useless. After the group of strange birds dispersed, they rushed towards the stone giant from all directions. The rain-like water droplets continued to fall from all directions. The stone giant's body emitted sizzling sounds. Xiaohua could clearly see that the stone giant's forehead was dripping with magma-like sweat. Its mouth was also tightly stretched. At that moment, in the distance, the small stone giant had only managed to utter a single word before it stopped. It was as if it had forcefully swallowed it back in. The stone giant was shocked. He raised his head and saw the little stone giant's yellow eyes filled with determination and forbearance. On top of the huge rock, a strange bird was flapping its wings and attacking the little stone giant with water droplets. Then the stone giant's heart ached. He knew that the little stone giant was injured. He wanted to cry out in pain, but he was afraid that he would be distracted, so he forced himself to endure. The stone giant shouted loudly. He picked up a huge rock in each hand and threw it towards the strange bird that was attacking the little stone giant. At the same time, his single eye that had been holding back suddenly emitted a red light. A pillar of fire shot out from his eye with a loud bang. Seeing the two huge rocks coming towards it, the strange bird let out a long cry and spread its wings to escape. However, the stone giant's two huge rocks were also ingenious. They didn't directly hit the strange bird's body. Instead, one hit the strange bird's head and the other hit the strange bird's tail. The strange bird couldn't escape forward or backward. The strange bird was stunned for a moment, but it also calmly responded. Its whole body strangely flew horizontally, and the water droplets on its wings took advantage of the momentum to hit the stone giant. However, before the water droplets could land, the stone giant's pillar of fire had already arrived. It landed right in the middle of the two huge rocks, where the body of the bird was sandwiched by the huge rocks. The strange bird was shocked. It tried its best to hit the huge rocks, wanting to escape. However, the stone giant's pillar of fire hit at the perfect time. Sizzle! There was also a chaotic sound. The strange bird's water droplets were extinguished by the pillar of fire. The pillar of fire crazily crashed into the strange bird's body. Not only did it ignite the strange bird's feathers, but it also pierced through the strange bird's body. The strange bird only had time to let out a low cry before its entire body turned into a fireball and fell to the ground. After killing the strange bird, the stone giant didn't dare to be negligent. Its body agilely pounced on the small stone giant. Looking at the strange birds behind the stone giant, they were still orderly before. However, when they saw the stone giant's pillar of fire and the strange bird's fireball hit, they all went crazy. They flapped their wings crazily and pounced on the two stone giants. Woo 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 woo. The stone giant landed beside the small stone giant and hugged it. Immediately after, a yellow halo appeared around its body. Then, as the stone giant fled to the side of the foothill, the 3 fingers on its right arm moved rapidly. Stones that weren't particularly large were driven by the stone giant and flew into the air. The strength of these stones wasn't as great as before, but there were many of them. The stone giant's goal was obviously to disrupt and not kill. Sure enough, The strange birds were very afraid of these stones. They scattered in all directions, giving the stone giant time to escape. However, the stone giant's running speed was far slower than that of the strange birds. In just half the time it took to eat a meal, the stone giant was forced to a stone wall by the strange birds. Seeing dozens of strange birds fiercely pouncing on it, some of them even spitting out pitch-black liquid from their mouths, the stone giant looked up to the sky and shouted, then. His voice was very miserable. Then, after spitting out another pillar of fire from its eyes, the stone giant turned around and covered the small stone giant under its body, exposing its back to the strange birds. Under the moonlight, the stone giant's back revealed small spots. Boom! The stone giant's pillar of fire shot out and hit a strange bird. At the same time that strange bird turned into a fireball, another loud sound rang out. A curtain of fire that was nearly 100 times larger than the fireball appeared out of thin air. Although it didn't engulf all the strange birds, it still blocked the two stone giants behind the curtain of fire. On the other side of the curtain of fire, Xiaohua stood in midair as if he was thinking about something. Gee! The strange birds seemed unwilling to give up. They all pounced on the curtain of fire. Whether it was their wings or their beaks, they spat out a lot of pitch-black liquid. Some of the larger strange birds even fanned out some wind blades. Unfortunately, how could these strange birds' attacks break through the curtain of fire that Xiaohua casually set up? After a moment, these strange birds saw that their attacks had no effect, so they tactfully flew away. Xiaohua withdrew the curtain of fire and still stood in midair with a smile on his face. His gaze was also gentle as he watched the stone giant use its body to block the small stone giant. It seemed that this side of family made the evil aura that had infected him from the Taoist Devil War disappear a lot. Seeing that the strange birds didn't attack, the stone giant also turned its head and looked at the night sky with some astonishment. The small stone giant even peeked out its single eye from the side of the stone giant's body to peek. Seeing that not a single strange bird was left in the night sky, the small stone giant couldn't help but whisper, then. The stone giant raised its body and proudly patted its chest a few times, as if it was showing off. Then, the stone giant grabbed the small stone giant's body and jumped out of the stone wall, then fled forward. However, after fleeing for another 100 zhang, the stone giant seemed to think of something. It patted its head and turned its head to look for Xiaohua. "This old man is here." Xiaohua hurriedly flew over and raised his hand to greet the stone giant. Then the stone giant patted its chest and pointed at Xiaohua again. Then, it pointed into the distance and beckoned Xiaohua to quickly follow it. Xiaohua faintly smiled, nodded slightly, and followed behind the stone giant. However, after walking for a few li, the stone giant became careful again and lightened its footsteps. Xiaohua frowned and released his divine sense. However, he could only see for a few li, tg. A soft roar like that of a mouse came from not far away. Although the sound was soft, it immediately made the stone giant tremble. Previously, it didn't fear the strange birds at all, but now, it was actually standing there and looking pitifully into the distance. In the dark night, a ball of golden brilliance that was only a few feet in size quickly rushed over. Inside the brilliance was a small child wearing armor and holding a weapon that looked like a spear in his hand. Damn it! A group of demons dancing wildly. Xiaohua glanced around and withdrew his divine sense. He smiled and said, "During the day, I used my divine sense to see tens of thousands of li and didn't see anything. However, at night, everything comes out." Then, the small stone giant also saw the small golden armored person and couldn't help but cry out. Suddenly, it looked at Xiaohua and pointed at him with all its strength, as if it was worried about Xiaohua. Just as Xiaohua was about to speak, a ray of light suddenly appeared in the distant horizon. This ray of light was seven-colored and formed a jade necklace in the night sky. Under this seven-colored light, even the moonlight high up in the sky lost its splendor. What was special was that after the ray of light, several roars came from all over the continent. Waves of desolate power surged out in all directions like a surging tide. Within this power, There was a vague shadow that crossed the restless night and flew towards the ray of light. This desolate power was so ferocious that although it rushed to where Xiao Hua was, whether it was the small golden-armored person or the stone giant, they both prostrated themselves on the ground and trembled in fear. A desolate powerhouse? Facing this nameless power, Xiao Hua was also shocked. While urging his secret technique to resist, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the ray of light. He didn't dare to rashly release his divine sense and thought to himself, "What is this ray of light?" However, in just a few breaths, the ray of light immediately fell and disappeared without a trace. Only the nameless power annihilated Xiao Hua's surroundings. Xiao Hua's figure flickered and instantly disappeared. However, after a while, Xiao Hua reappeared not far away. He looked at the two stone giants lying on the ground and then looked at the small golden-armored person not far away. After thinking for a while, he called out Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "I still have some things to do. I'll have to trouble you two fellow Taoists." Chapter 4185. Fellow Taoist, you're really interesting. The Dragon Vein Xiao Hua said with a smile, "That place is obviously a secret treasure, and it might even contain the secrets of this continent. Fellow Taoist, you didn't personally explore it, but instead stayed here to protect two stone giants that you don't know. Fellow Taoist's actions really make I puzzled." Phoenix Body Xiao Hua was also puzzled. Fellow Taoist, even if you want to protect two stones that aren't human, you only need to throw the golden-armored little person far away. Why do you have to stay here? Xiao Hua's originally curved phoenix eyes were now curved like crescent moons. He said with a smile, "Although you two have already become independent adults, you still don't have the emotions of a true cultivator. The affection of these stone giants is really touching. If I don't send these two stone giants back to their home, I won't be able to rest assured. Moreover, to tell you the truth, I have a feeling that the karma of these two stone giants is more important than the secret treasure in the distance." Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua naturally didn't have Xiao Hua's karma. They both smiled at each other and flew towards the place where the multicolored light disappeared. Xiao Hua was still standing in the air, quietly waiting. After the time it took to eat a meal, the aura that suppressed everything gradually disappeared. The golden-armored little person was the first to get up from the ground. However, when the little person looked at the two stone giants on the ground, he didn't have any thoughts of attacking. He shrunk his neck and looked around, then turned around and ran away. Then the golden-armored little person left. Only then did the stone giant straighten up. He awkwardly got up and ran in another direction. Only after running for a while did he remember Xiao Hua. He turned his head again and waved at Xiao Hua. Perhaps because of the change just now, they didn't encounter any special beasts in the next few mountain ridges. Looking at the vermilion mountain ridges in front of him and the hot air in front of him, Xiao Hua understood that this was probably the stone giant's home. Previously, when Xiao Hua looked down from high up in the sky, he didn't feel that it was too far away. However, when he really ran all the way with the stone giant, he realized the true distance. Then Xiao Hua turned his head to look. Sure enough, the mountain peak that he had fallen from earlier just happened to be exposed in the distant mountain ridge. He reckoned that the little stone giant had seen something strange nearby and ran so far away alone to look for something. The stone giant led Xiao Hua into the mountain ridge and circled around to the side of a huge boulder. He pointed at the boulder and pointed at it a few times before turning around and leaving. When Xiao Hua heard the stone giant say so many, then he finally understood the meaning of these two words. He smiled and calmly stood there. Xiao Hua released his divine sense and watched as the stone giant tiptoed around a few times, crossing over a dozen large stones. It even turned around to check if Xiao Hua was following. Xiao Hua couldn't help but laugh in his heart, because right in front of the stone giant's head, there was a large amount of magma exposed on the ground. If Xiao Hua didn't know that the stone giant had magma inside its body, then it would be fine. But since he knew, how could he not know that the stone giant's cave was inside the magma? Sure enough, when the stone giant walked to the magma, the little stone giant jumped down from his body and happily jumped into the magma. The stone giant also walked to the magma and slowly submerged his body in the magma. When the stone giant's figure disappeared, Xiaohua's divine sense swept over the magma and then withdrew it. Xiaohua had also seen the magma before, but he didn't look into its depths. Naturally, he didn't know that there was a world inside the magma. After the time it took to eat a meal, the stone giant came out of the magma. Large drops of magma flowed on the surface of his body. The marks left by the strange bird's attack had already gradually disappeared. The stone giant walked out and arrived in front of Xiaohua. He stretched out his hand, and in his hand were several mid-grade fire attribute primordial stones. Then the stone giant placed the fire attribute primordial stones in front of Xiaohua and shouted. His body was still emitting flames. Looking at the fire attribute primordial stones, Xiaohua suddenly realized that the stone giant had brought him here to repay his kindness of saving the little stone giant. He was giving him the primordial stones. Xiaohua smiled and slightly waved his hand. He pushed the fire attribute primordial stones to the stone giant, indicating that he didn't want them. Then the stone giant was somewhat puzzled. He scratched his head and pushed the primordial stones in front of Xiaohua again. Xiaohua thought for a moment and took out a few top-grade primordial stones from his bosom. He spread them on his palm and showed them to the stone giant. Then the stone giant saw the top-grade primordial stones in Xiaohua's hand and immediately exclaimed. He stretched out his hand to grab the primordial stones, but his hand stopped in front of the primordial stones. Even the magma on his arm dripped onto Xiaohua's hand. The stone giant obviously didn't notice that the magma on Xiaohua's hand didn't cause any movement. He hurriedly waved his hand and pointed at the boulder where Xiaohua was. Then he said a few more times and hurriedly turned around. Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. He looked at the fire attribute primordial stones in his hand and rubbed his chin as he looked at the magma flowing from the stone giant's body. He seemed to be lost in thought. Not long after, another stone giant that was 3 times bigger than the previous one quickly ran over. The previous stone giant followed behind this stone giant. When this stone giant saw Xiaohua, he immediately shouted, "So dense, so dense." He also put his palms together and saluted. It seems that he said one more word than the previous stone giant. Xiaohua laughed in his heart. He also put his palms together and saluted back. He didn't say anything. After a very strange salute, the stone giant stretched out a finger that was comparable to a tree and pointed at Xiaohua's hand. He asked, "So dense, so dense?" Xiaohua was already calm and unafraid of the other side's all-encompassing, "so dense," let alone the "so dense" that was one more word than "so dense." Xiaohua understood and waved his hand. Several top-grade primordial stones fell into the stone giant's hand. The stone giant took the top-grade primordial stones and placed them in his hand. A faint flame was emitted from his single eye. The flame illuminated the night sky and caused the top-grade primordial stones to flash with flames. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the stone giant finished looking at the top-grade primordial stones one by one. He then carefully returned the primordial stones to Xiaohua. Xiaohua's impression of these stone giants immediately increased. He waved his hand, indicating that he didn't want the primordial stones and gave them to the stone giant. Unexpectedly, the stone giant shook his head and put the top-grade primordial stones in front of Xiaohua. He put his palms together again and respectfully prostrated himself on the ground. He then put his palm in front of Xiaohua and said, "So dense, so dense?" Behind the stone giant, the previous stone giant also prostrated himself on the ground. It didn't seem like he was prostrating, but rather a welcoming ceremony. Xiaohua naturally wasn't afraid that there was something fishy. He almost didn't think about it and floated onto the stone giant's palm. "So dense, so dense." The stone giant was very happy. He carefully lifted Xiaohua in front of his chest and brought the previous stone giant back to the magma. When the stone giant walked in front of the magma, a scarlet halo appeared around his body. This halo came out from his palm and protected Xiaohua. The magma emitted gurgling bubbles, just like what Xiaohua saw in the flame forest swamp of the Xiaoyu continent. The stone giant's feet and body were steady, as if there were stairs in the magma. After walking for a while, the two stone giants turned around and continued to walk up. When the two finally walked out of the magma, Xiaohua was actually in a space that was several hundred li in size. Xiaohua's divine sense swept out and immediately saw clearly that most of the space was filled with magma. Aside from some small island-like protruding rocks within the magma, there were only some vermilion red rocks at the edges of the magma. These rocks were similarly burning with thin flames, roasting the space to an extreme degree. The stone giant respectfully placed Xiaohua on the burning rocks, as if the flames on the rocks were ordinary grass. He didn't even think about whether Xiaohua could withstand it. Xiaohua naturally wasn't afraid of these flames and high temperature. He stepped on the magma. So secret, so secret. As the stone giant spoke, he respectfully clasped his hands together and bowed. Then, he turned around and walked into the ocean-like magma. In just a moment his figure disappeared. Xiaohua wanted to use his divine sense to chase after him, but he was a gentleman. Now that he was invited here, he naturally wouldn't look into other people's secrets. Therefore, he opened his mouth and wanted to say something to the stone giant. However, after opening his mouth, he swallowed his words back down. Xiaohua really couldn't stand the stone giant's omnipotent so. At this moment, a hoarse and weak voice came from the magma lake in the distance. A stone giant floated over from the magma. When it rushed to the top of the rock, it looked like a dying person lying there. The stone giant beside Xiaohua looked at the stone giant in the distance and then looked at Xiaohua. He took out the primeval stones he wanted to give Xiaohua and pointed at the stone giant in the distance. He asked, So, Xiaohua was quite puzzled. He was confused, but he still nodded. The stone giant was very happy and rushed towards the stone giant's location. Xiaohua's heart was moved, and his figure fluttered as he followed the stone giant. The stone giant came to the side of the stone giant and put several primeval stones into the stone giant's mouth. Crunch, crunch. The stone giant greedily chewed the primeval stones, just like a mortal who saw food. After a while, a scarlet halo appeared around the stone giant's body. Then, the stone giant was brimming with energy. He raised his hand and hammered the shoulder of the stone giant beside Xiaohua a few times. He seemed to be calling out gratefully, then, so. The stone giant smiled and replied. It also hammered the shoulder of the stone giant. Looking at the stone giant that ate the primeval stones and then entered the magma lake, Xiaohua somewhat understood. The fire primeval stones should be the stone giant's food. The stone giant just now was probably hungry. Chapter 4186. Then the stone giant raised his hands as if he wanted to explain something to Xiaohua. The tone of his mouth was very apologetic. He should be apologizing for giving the primordial stones that were originally meant for Xiaohua to another stone giant. Xiaohua laughed. He didn't dare to ask whether the stone giant understood him or not. He laughed and said, Saving your son was as easy as lifting a finger. In addition, it was me who scared him into falling. It doesn't matter if you give me the primordial stones or not. Of course, the stone giant didn't understand what Xiaohua was saying. However, he still laughed happily. His big mouth split open to both sides of his head. The stone giant accompanied Xiaohua at the side of the magma. After half a meal's time, he didn't see the stone giant come back. Xiaohua took a breath of extremely pure fire attributed primordial energy of heaven and earth. He felt very comfortable. No matter where in this world, it was the dream of cultivators to cultivate. It was no wonder that there were so many almighty people in the ancient times. Then another voice sounded. The little stone giant that Xiaohua saved also walked out of the magma. Looking at Xiaohua beside the stone giant, he timidly walked over and whispered. The stone giant slightly shook his head. He said with difficulty, Then he pointed at the magma, hinting the little stone giant to go back. The little stone giant pitifully walked 2 steps. He turned his head again and looked at the stone giant, unwilling to move. Then the stone giant seemed to be angry. He raised his hand and clenched 3 fingers together to threaten the little stone giant. The little stone giant was helpless. He could only walk back to the magma. However, after he entered the magma, he turned his head and looked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua's heart moved. He quickly raised his hand and took out a low-grade primordial stone. He said with a smile, "Little guy, do you want this thing?" The little stone giant immediately cheered. He jumped out of the magma and quickly rushed in front of Xiaohua. He snatched the low-grade primordial stone and stuffed it into his mouth. The stone giant beside Xiaohua seemed to be a little embarrassed. He lowered his head and didn't express his intention. Xiaohua was a little confused. This place had such pure primordial energy of heaven and earth and so much magma. How could there be no fire-attributed primordial stones? However, when he released his divine sense slightly, he came to a realization. This was because there were many rock giants swimming and lying in the lava within a few miles of the area. Although Xiaohua didn't look into the distance, he absolutely believed that within these several hundred miles of magma, there were definitely even more stone giants. If they ate fire attribute source stones as food, then no matter how many source stones were condensed within the magma, it wouldn't be enough for them to eat. Moreover, looking at the little stone giant that had recovered its vigor and vitality, Xiaohua understood even more clearly that this little fellow had probably seen him coming from beyond the heavens and thought that there would be some kind of opportunity. That was why it had run so far and passed by so many territories occupied by its natural enemies to look for delicious food. As for the stone giant, in order to thank Xiaohua, it also gave him the few source stones it had. In Xiaohua's eyes, source stones were source stones, but in the stone giant's eyes, they were the most precious thing. It was his life. Xiaohua was a compassionate person. The actions of the 2 stone giants had moved him even more. He had the heart to help these stone giants. However, the stone giants weren't humans. Although there were source stones in Xiaohua's space, these source stones weren't of good quality. No matter how much Xiaohua gave them, they would eventually be used up. What Xiaohua wanted to do was to find a way to solve this problem once and for all. Just as Xiaohua was pondering, a burst of sound came from the magma. This sound fell into Xiaohua's ears like thunder, causing him to be dumbfounded. Xiaohua looked at the magma lake in disbelief. He saw the magma lake, which was thousands of feet deep, began to violently stir. Bubbles of several zhang in size emerged from the magma lake. Along with these bubbles, there was the sound of a wooden fish being struck. In front of Xiaohua's dumbfounded eyes, a 1,000-foot-tall stone giant walked out of the lava lake. This stone giant's face was full of wrinkles, just like layers upon layers of rock. Behind this stone giant were several smaller stone giants, each of them holding a stone wooden fish. These stone wooden fish were probably the largest wooden fish Xiaohua had ever seen. Each of these stone wooden fish was dozens of feet long, and each of the stone giants held stone rods that were dozens of feet long. As they struck these stone wooden fish, a crisp sound rang out. The last stone giant to appear from the magma lake was the stone giant who had previously entered the magma lake to report. At this time, the stone giant stepped on the waves and respectfully clasped his hands together and said, "So dense, so dense." Xiaohua knew that the origin of this seemingly old stone giant was extraordinary. He also urged his body to step on the magma lake and meet the stone giant. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with Xiaohua's body stepping on the magma lake, the old stone giant's eyes were filled with astonishment. Only when Xiaohua flew closer did the stone giant wake up. He clasped his hands together and said, "Namo Mithriya Buddha." Xiaohua was already surprised when the old stone giant called out the name of Buddha, but this name of Buddha was actually Namo Mithriya Buddha, which shocked Xiaohua even more. Xiaohua was stunned for a moment, then he came back to his senses. He bowed and said, "Namo Mithriya Buddha. Namo Mithriya Buddha, Namo Mithriya Buddha." When the old stone giant heard Xiaohua's words, he was also happy. However, his eyes flashed with doubt as he asked, "Ah?" Xiaohua saw the confusion in the old stone giant's eyes, and he himself was even more puzzled. However, in just a few breaths of time, Xiaohua's head turned rapidly, and his face showed a strange expression. It seemed like he was smiling but not smiling, or he couldn't help laughing. After hearing the old stone giant's name of Namo Mithriya Buddha, Xiaohua finally understood that the big stone giant and the small stone giant spoke of was not so, but Namo. And the so dense that the stone giant spoke of was not so dense, but Namo Mithriya. Perhaps these three stone giants didn't know how to speak and only learned these three words. Although Xiaohua understood the secret, in the face of the all-encompassing Namo Mithriya Buddha, Xiaohua still didn't know how to answer. However, he only hesitated for a few breaths of time, then he raised his hand and waved. The sound of falling rain could be seen in the air. Tens of thousands of fire element primordial stones appeared out of thin air and fell into the magma lake. Under the old stone giant's dumbstruck expression, a layer of primordial stones covered the magma lake, shining with a gorgeous luster. In an instant, the sound of the wooden fish suddenly stopped. The dozen stone giants holding the wooden fish couldn't help but say in unison, Namo Mithriya Buddha, Namo Mithriya Buddha, phew. The old stone giant breathed a long sigh of relief. He withdrew his shocked gaze and put his palms together, Namo Mithriya Buddha. Namo Mithriya Buddha. Xiaohua smiled and said, I don't know why you're chanting Namo Mithriya Buddha, but since you're a disciple of Buddhism, I can't treat you poorly. These origin stones can be considered as a gift from me, please accept them. As he spoke, he used his hand to draw in the air and sent it to the old stone giant, indicating that all the primordial stones were given to him. Namo Mithriya Buddha. The old stone giant naturally understood. His wrinkled face was filled with joy. He waved his hand and said again. Many stone giants walked forward and waved their hands, controlling the magma lake to collect the primordial stones. Then, the old stone giant respectfully pointed at the magma lake under his feet and said, Namo Mithriya Buddha? Good. Xiaohua knew that the old stone giant was inviting him to go deeper into the magma lake. He nodded and smiled in agreement. However, when the old stone giant was about to kneel on the magma lake and put his palms together, Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand and helped the old stone giant up. He pointed at his nose and then at the magma lake, indicating that he could go down. However, Xiaohua's gesture was obviously not understood by the old stone giant. Therefore, Xiaohua simply used an escape technique and entered the magma lake. Seeing that Xiaohua could freely enter and exit the magma lake, the old stone giant's eyes almost fell out. The respect in his eyes was now mixed with a trace of fear. Please. Xiaohua raised his hand and gestured. The old stone giant hurriedly nodded and called out, Namo Mithriya Buddha, as his figure disappeared into the magma lake. Xiaohua followed the old stone giant into the magma lake and went deeper into the magma lake. Just as Xiaohua had seen with his divine sense, there were many stone giants in the magma lake. Some stone giants were leisurely walking in the magma lake. When they saw the old stone giant, they respectfully saluted him. Some stone giants had their eyes tightly closed, as if they were sleeping in the magma lake. Even more stone giants were moving up and down the magma lake, looking very busy as if they were looking for something. After traveling for half the time it took to eat a meal, the entire bottom of the magma lake began to slowly shrink. In the end, it shrank into an oval-shaped hole that was more than 10 li in size. Below the hole, there was more magma flowing, and it was even more scorching. Obviously, this was the core of the magma lake. Near the oval-shaped hole, there were many stone giants, but now there were few people. It seemed that even the stone giants didn't dare to get too close to the core of the magma lake. The surroundings of the cave were similarly filled with large and small ochre-red boulders. These boulders were of different shapes and looked very strange. However, the strangest thing was not these boulders, but the Buddhist shrine at the highest point of the boulder. This Buddhist shrine was neither big nor small, but when the old stone giant walked to the front of the Buddhist shrine, Xiaohua understood that this Buddhist shrine was not even as tall as the old stone giant's knees. When the old stone giant landed in front of the Buddhist shrine, he respectfully prostrated himself on the ground, saluting according to Buddhist etiquette. His figure in front of the Buddhist shrine was especially huge, and his piety made Xiaohua sigh. However, When Xiaohua's gaze passed the old stone giant's figure and landed on the Buddhist statue in the Buddhist shrine, he was stunned again. How? How could it be him? Xiaohua's heart almost jumped out of his chest. He looked at the Buddhist shrine in disbelief and couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, "Namo Maitreya Buddha? Is actually Lu?" Chapter 4187. That's right, in that crude, stone-built Buddhist shrine, there was a fiery red Buddha statue carved out of crystal, flashing with holy Buddha light. The Buddha light shone brightly on the face of the Buddha statue. Wasn't that the lifelike Jiang Lue? Xiaohua had once stopped Jiang Lue, whose Buddhist name was Chuanzang, from taking down the Buddhist edict in the Jiangchao temple. He had a deep impression of Jiang Lue's shaved head. Now that he saw the Buddha statue, he naturally thought of Jiang Lue. How is this possible? After Xiaohua recovered from his shock, he muttered, "What's going on? How can Jiang Lue be Nanwu Maitreya Buddha? How can his Buddha statue be in this mysterious primitive continent?" Xiaohua's suspicions were heavy, but looking at the old stone giant who had already stood up, Xiaohua knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of this old stone giant. Xiaohua thought for a moment and waved his hand, releasing Buddha Bodhi from his Naiwan palace. Buddha Bodhi looked around in bewilderment, activating the Buddha light to block the magma outside his body. He cupped his hands and asked, "Nanwu Maitreya Buddha, why did Tan Yu ask this poor monk to come out?" Xiaohua didn't explain much. He pointed at the shrine behind Buddha Bodhi and said weakly, "What's the matter? See for yourself. Why ask so much?" Buddha Bodhi was even more puzzled, but when he saw the Buddha statue in the shrine, Buddha Bodhi smiled bitterly and replied, "Tan Yu, what else do you want this poor monk to say? Jiang Lue is the real reincarnation of Nanwu Maitreya Buddha. This poor monk is the fake. Or it could be said that this poor monk stole Jiang Lue's luck and practiced the exquisite Lotus Leaf Sutra first." Hiss. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. The thoughts in his mind instantly became clear. That's right. This Xiao lost his memory and wandered to the Dawn Rain continent. By a freak combination of factors, this Xiao obtained the exquisite Lotus Leaf Pagoda. In fact, this Xiao is the intruder of the Dawn Rain continent. If this Xiao didn't lose his memory, this exquisite Lotus Leaf Pagoda would have fallen into his hands after Jiang Lue was born. Then he, a cultivator who couldn't practice Taoist techniques, would start practicing the real Buddhist techniques. After all, he is the real reincarnation of Maitreya Buddha. Furthermore, if Tan Yu hadn't come to the Dawn Rain continent, Jiang Lue would still be on the Dawn Rain continent. Although he wouldn't be able to obtain the gold leaf from the Great Snow Mountain, he would still be able to cultivate the exquisite Leaf Sutra, and not the current Prajna Heart Sutra. Buddha Subhuti reminded, "You wouldn't have come to this fork in the road, and there wouldn't have been any sutra-seeking bliss." However, Xiaohua was even more puzzled. He asked, "If Jiang Lue is Namo Maitreya Buddha, then whose Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra is?" Back on the Great Snow Mountain, didn't that old monk also say? At this point, Xiaohua once again sucked in a breath of cold air, because everything that the old monk had said to him that day was equally suitable for Jiang Lue. Jiang Lue also understood the language of the Dawn Rain continent. Could it be that the old monk of the Great Snow Mountain is waiting for Jiang Lue? It's not me? Xiaohua has a strange feeling. But if the old monk wasn't waiting for this Xiao, then the old monk shouldn't have died that day. He should still have a longer lifespan. Thinking of this, Xiaohua seems to have thought of something. He hurriedly waved his hand and took out the pills he had obtained from the kitchen of the Great Snow Mountain. A silver-white halo flashed across his eyes. After looking at it for a moment, he said somewhat dejectedly, "Not bad. This is a spirit medicine that can extend one's lifespan." One pill can extend one's lifespan by 10 years, or even more. That old monk still had a lot of it in his kitchen. He should still be alive. He mistook me for this Xiao and stopped taking it. It can be said that he was burned alive. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Buddha Subhuti sighed and said again, "If this Buddha fruit belonged to someone else, it would still be snatched. But this Buddha fruit belongs to Lue. How can we snatch it?" "Yes, that's right." Xiaohua nodded. Luer's sutra seeking bliss is most likely an arrangement of the Buddhist sect to let him attain the Buddha fruit of Namo Maitreya Buddha. When we return to the hidden immortal continent, we will settle this matter. There's another question. Buddha Subhuti said again, if we snatch Luer's Buddha fruit and fate, then whose did Luer snatch? That Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra. From the records of the Buddhist sect, it should be a cultivation technique cultivated by Ananda. Where is Ananda now? What is the Buddha fruit that Jiang Luer attained? It's a mess, a mess. Xiao Hua rubbed his temples in distress and said with a bitter smile, didn't your Buddhist sect cultivate the golden body of 9 lives and control reincarnation? How did such a big accident happen today? Haven't you heard of that saying? Things that can go wrong will definitely go wrong. Or is it that things that you worry about going wrong will definitely go wrong? Buddha Subhuti answered with a smile, although my Buddhist sect's Arhat cultivates the golden body of reincarnation, it's inevitable that there will be accidents in the process. This accident is another person's opportunity and also his own tribulation. Today's situation is Jiang Luer's tribulation and this poor monk's opportunity. That's true. Xiao Hua nodded. If nothing goes wrong, all the Buddha fruits have already been attained by the Buddha Lord and the Bodhisattvas. How can they be left for the younger generation? At this point, Xiao Hua seemed to think of something and said to Buddha Subhuti apologetically, fellow immortal, although this is our opportunity, but it's also Luer's tribulation. We are Luer's elders and senior sister is also very good to me. Ha! Buddha Subhuti waved his hand and said, Namo Maitreya, you're thinking too much. Although this poor monk is an outsider, this poor monk and Sandalwood are one. Didn't Sandalwood say earlier? We are born from the same root and definitely can't cause trouble. This poor monk deeply agrees. Luer is Sandalwood's nephew and also this poor monk's nephew. It doesn't matter if this poor monk doesn't attain the Buddha fruit or not. The key is the kinship that Sandalwood mentioned. Although this poor monk doesn't understand this kinship too well, this poor monk knows that this is the most important thing in this world to Sandalwood. This poor monk can give up the Buddha fruit for this so-called kinship. At this point, Buddha Subhuti changed the topic and said with a smile, moreover, Sandalwood, don't forget that this poor monk still has the Buddha fruit of Namo Great Compassion Great Guanyin Bodhisattva to attain. Good. Xiao Hua listened and said with a smile, if fellow immortal has such a mind, there's hope for attaining the Buddha fruit in this life. Namo Maitreya. Buddha Subhuti put his palms together and chanted Buddha's name without saying anything else. When Xiao Hua and Buddha Subhuti were talking, the old stone giant didn't pay attention. First, Xiao Hua and Buddha Subhuti rarely spoke. Most of the time, it was a mental communication. Other people simply couldn't hear anything. Second, even if the old stone giant could hear, he simply couldn't understand what Xiao Hua was saying. After the old stone giant respectfully saluted, he got up and wanted to say something to Xiao Hua. However, when his single eye looked past Xiao Hua and landed on Buddha Subhuti's body, extreme shock appeared in his single eye. He opened his mouth and said, Namo Maitreya, Namo Maitreya. One after another, he was stunned for half a cup of tea's time. Plop. The old stone giant suddenly knelt in front of Buddha Subhuti. Magma flowed out of his single eye and his mouth was sobbing. However, he still chanted the same 6 words. Buddha Bodhi sighed and lifted the old stone giant up. With a benevolent look in his eyes, he said, Namo Maitreya Buddha, I'm not the Maitreya Buddha that you guys worship. I'm just an ordinary bodhisattva. Namo Maitreya. The old stone giant didn't care about what Buddha Subhuti said. He just used his big hand to carefully pull Buddha Subhuti's monk robe and chanted Buddha's name again and again. Although his pronunciation wasn't accurate, his incomparable devotion actually made Buddha Subhuti feel a trace of the power of faith. How is this possible? Buddha Subhuti was somewhat astonished. He looked at Xiao Hua in puzzlement. After all, he wasn't Jiang Luer, nor was he Maitreya. How could he obtain the old stone giant's faith? However, although the power of faith was particularly weak, it was real. Buddha Subhuti rarely obtained any faith in the past tens of thousands of years. Therefore, he could clearly perceive the appearance of the power of faith. Xiaohua looked at the old stone giant's appearance and then looked at Buddha Subhudi's puzzlement. He also frowned. Normally, he would definitely encourage Buddha Subhudi to help. However, if Buddha Subhudi were to help now, it would clearly be snatching the opportunity from Jiang Luer. Not only was Buddha Subhudi hesitating, he was also hesitating. Fellow immortal. Xiaohua's heart moved, and he said, previously, the human race on Shenhua continent was not prosperous. Fellow Taoist in green robes controlled the entire fortune gate by himself. Even fellow Taoist in Confucianism couldn't spread his branches and leaves. Now, the human race on this continent is flourishing. I'm afraid that there are more than 100 million of them. These humans also have the power of faith. Fellow immortal, you can spread the essence of Buddhism on Shenhua continent. Tan Yu, I'm afraid that even a wise man will make a mistake. Buddha Subhudi laughed. The human race on Shenhua continent is flourishing. They can cultivate Taoism, Confucianism, and even soul cultivators can preach. This poor monk won't compete with them. This poor monk has a better place. But what else is there? Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. However, it was only a moment before Xiaohua came to a sudden realization. Soon after, he bowed respectfully and said, Namo Maitreya Buddha, since fellow immortal has such a great wish, this poor Taoist will address you as master in the future. I don't dare. Buddha Subhudi said compassionately, humans are fruits, devils are fruits, beasts are fruits, and demons are also fruits. Everything in this world is a fruit in the eyes of my Buddhism sect. Tan Yu has taken in so many devils, but you still haven't found a way to deal with them. Leave these devils to this poor monk. This poor monk doesn't have to compete with you fellow immortals for anything. Master is merciful. Hearing Buddha Subhudi's great wish, Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He called him master and said, I didn't think things through that day and brought great trouble to master. Namo Maitreya Buddha, this is tribulation, fate, cause and effect. Buddha Subhudi nodded slightly. He then looked at the old stone giant who was carefully looking at him. The lava in the stone giant's eye had already flowed to his chest. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.